Hello, this is your host, Adam Graham, from Pretty Much the Present. And in this video, we'll be bringing you a compilation of old-time radio detective podcasts from 2010. The podcasts are appearing, for the most part, unedited, except for some extraneous or repetitive elements that are being removed because this is a compilation. As I said, these are old, so any websites or offers mentioned may not be valid at the time you're listening unless you find them on our website currently. Now, with that said, here is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. Got a comment? Email me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And become a fan of the show on Facebook, facebook.greatdetectives.net. More than 160 fans. You're welcome to join in. I believe we're going to see about bringing you another special around the time of our 150th episode. So that would be, if everything goes well, would be 3 weeks from Saturday. Or 2 weeks from Saturday, excuse me. And this one, it's not as special as the Maltese Falcon, but I found it pretty interesting. And it also stars Alan Ladd as a detective, so be looking for that. Before we get into today's show, I do want to remind you about Audible. I'm continuing to listen to and enjoy The Shadow, Not of Darkness. And The Shadow is a fascinating series. It is a challenge to classify. At times it has elements of detective fiction. It looks most of the time like a superhero show, but also has some, even some elements of horror and science fiction in it. So a fascinating show, and we've got right on our site a link where you can purchase The Shadow, Not a Darkness from Audible with 2 never-before-released episodes of The Shadow starring Orson Welles. It's a great 18-episode set, and I've mentioned before there are 3 ways you can get it. Either click the link to try out a 2-week risk-free trial, or do what I call the extended trial, $7.95 a month for the first 3 months, or just buy it a la carte. Go to greatdetectives.net, your options are there, and make your choice in terms of what you want to do. Alright, well, we're going to get into today's episode of Box 13. This one is actually the episode... when I'm listening to a longer series like Box 13, something that there's more than 20 or 30 episodes to, I generally will listen to, say, the first 3 episodes, and then I'll pick one episode kind of in the middle to see if the show maintains its quality. And so this was my test episode for Box 13. I really enjoyed it, and there was no doubt in my mind we were going to do the show after listening to that. So let's go ahead and we're going to get into today's episode of Box 13, Hares and Hounds.
Box 13, with the star of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
You idiot, you fool, you let him get away.
I did not, Worker. What could I do? He was in the post office.
Did he have the envelope?
Of course he did. He sent them to someone.
Sent them? And he's got away. Oh, Staley, you are an idiot.
No, not quite. Look, I've got a blotter.
Well, what good's that?
Look, in the mirror. What he wrote on the envelope is on the blotter.
Well, at least you used your head. I'll see if we can read it. Box 13, care of Star Times. Box 13, Star Times. There's no Star Times in this city.
But there is in the city he sent his letter to.
You're right. Well, we'll find him later. But first, I think I can get what we want from this Box 13.
And now, back to Box 13 and Dan Holliday's newest adventure, Hare and Hounds.
Okay, I'll see you later then. So long.
Hello, Mr. Holliday.
Oh, hiya, Susie. Got the mail?
Uh-huh. And what you got there?
8 nice new counterfeit $5 bills.
How'd you get them?
Well, you see, I had my eyes closed when they were passed on to me. I'm turning them over later to the police. Now, how about the mail?
Oh, here. And you know, Mr. Holliday, I had the funniest feeling while I was coming back here at the office from the Star-Times.
What do you mean?
I had a kind of demolition.
You mean you blew your top?
Huh?
What do you mean, demolition?
You know, like when you think something's happening or going to happen.
Oh, premonition.
I had it.
Well, why?
I felt like I was being followed. I felt eyes looking at me when I was in the Star-Times getting the mail.
And you were followed?
It felt like it.
Okay, that makes you a big girl now. Let's have the mail, huh?
Yes, sir. 12 letters.
Slim pickings.
It was such a funny feeling.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, look here. An out-of-town letter.
I know. I thought... Oh.
A little nervous this morning, Susie.
I guess so.
Come in.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
May I come in?
Oh, please do.
I hope this is not too much of an intrusion, but I...
May I do something for you?
Well, maybe. Is this your advertisement in the Star-Times? Adventure Wanted will go any place, do anything, Box 13?
That's right.
So you are Box 13?
Yes.
I had a different picture of you, Mr.
Holliday. Dan Holliday.
Oh, well, my name is Worker, Thomas Worker.
Oh, I saw you at the Star-Times. You were the one who was looking at me.
Yes, I guess I was.
You followed me.
It was charming work.
And you... Oh, thank you.
May I ask why you followed my secretary, Mr. Worker?
Curiosity. You see, I've been noticing your ad for weeks now. It runs day after day. Well, naturally, I wanted to see you, what you look like, and why you put the ad in the paper.
Oh, is that all?
Yes, that's all. Foolish?
No.
Tell me, Mr. Holliday, do you get the adventure you advertise for?
Sometimes.
Do you receive many replies to your ad?
Usually, yes.
But you cannot follow them all.
Well, no. Do you have any particular reason for asking all these questions, Mr. Worker?
No, but I lead such a prosaic life myself that your ad intrigued me. I finally got up enough courage to go to the Star-Times and wait for someone to collect the mail from Box 13.
I see. And now that you found me...
Well, perhaps you'd care to have dinner with me some evening and tell me some of your adventures. Oh, I'd like to hear them very much. I'm very lonely and...
All right, Mr. Worker. I'd be glad to.
Oh, thank you. Now I must be going. Sorry to have troubled you. And I hope I didn't frighten you, young lady.
Oh, no. It was kind of fun.
Oh, my umbrella. One can never tell when it might rain. Well, good day, Mr. Holliday, and thank you so much. Don't bother to get up. I'll look you up in the phone book and call you.
Please do. Goodbye.
What a nice man.
Uh-huh. Funny old duck. Well, let's open the mail, Susie, and... Hey.
Huh? What's the matter?
Where's that letter from out of town?
It's right on top of the pile where you put it.
But it's not
What's the matter, Mr. Holliday?
He's gone.
What do you mean? Sure he's gone,
And that letter went with him.
He took it.
His umbrella was on top of the pile. Oh, what a nice old man.
Gee, he stole a letter.
Yeah, and something tells me, Susie, that Mr. Worker will never invite me to have that dinner with him. Sure, Worker took the letter. But why? What was in it? Why was it so important? And who sent it? Well, I kept asking myself those questions, and then 3 days after that little visit from Worker, Susie came bursting into the office.
Oh, Mr. Holliday, look. Here's another letter from the same place. I mean, it looks like the same handwriting.
Yeah, it does. Hey, Susie.
Huh?
You weren't followed this time, were you?
I made sure.
Oh, good.
What you say, Mr. Holliday?
Now, listen. 3 days ago, I sent you a letter containing a sealed envelope. It contained half of something which is very important to me. It was imperative that I get rid of it until I could get to safety.
Gee.
I'm all right now, so send the sealed envelope to 243 Marlowe Avenue, Bridgeport. Arthur Holmes.
Now what are you going to do, Mr. Holliday?
Do? Well, I can't send him the envelope because I haven't got it. And I can't find Mr. Worker because I've got a sneaking hunch that he'll be a little scarce.
Maybe you better write to Mr. Holmes.
Oh, no, Susie. This looks too good to be handled by a letter. I'm going to find out a few things by seeing Mr. Holmes in person. I went to Bridgeport, found 243 Marlowe Avenue. It was an apartment house. There was no clerk at the desk, but there was a tier of mailboxes. One of them belonged to Arthur Holmes in apartment 6B. So, a couple of minutes later... Mr. Holmes? Oh, Mr. Holmes? I tried the door. It wasn't locked. The apartment was dark. I was fumbling for the light switch when... Oh! If I say I was fresh as a daisy after that thump on my head, I'd never get to be the father of my country. I was lying on the floor. The room was still dark except for a flashing light that came from a store sign across the street. I lay there for a minute to give the room a little time to stop spinning, then I realized I was holding something in my hand. And from where I lay, it felt like a gun. I was just crawling to my feet when...
Mr. Holmes, I've come with the fresh towels. Mr. Holmes!
I wanted to clear up a lot more before anyone found me. I ducked behind the door and waited.
Mr. Holmes?
Why did she scream? Well, who wouldn't? The room was a shambles. Someone had searched it. And lying on the bed in an alcove was a man who certainly would have no further interest in me. Or anything else. There was a hole in his forehead. And I was sure I held the gun that put it there. Sure, I was innocent. But I'd have a hard time proving that. Figure it out. I received the letter from Holmes. Instead of writing, I went to him. I didn't wait for the clerk in the building to call up first. I ducked behind the door when the cleaning woman came in. Maybe I should have gone to the police right away, but I was innocent. And I wanted to learn a bit more. Besides, the cleaning woman reported the murder. So, a half hour later, I was drinking a cup of coffee in an all-night hamburger stand.
That winds up the late news for tonight. The next edition of the new... Oh, just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. We have a last-minute flash. A murder was committed tonight in the Roxmore Apartments. Police are looking for a man who answers this description. Medium height, light hair, wearing dark gray flannel suit, blue and white striped necktie, black shoes, carrying light tan topcoat. The description of the wanted man was given to the police by the clerk, who remembers this man asking for the apartment of the murdered man, Arthur Holmes. And that's all for tonight. The next edition of the news...
Another murder. Hear it, mister?
Yeah.
Getting so a person can't feel safe no more.
You're so right.
More coffee?
No, thanks. No, thanks.
Pie? Cake?
Nothing, thank you.
They ought to get that guy that done it pretty soon.
You think so?
Sure. He ain't going to get far. Well, every cop in the city will be looking for a guy wearing a gray suit with blue and white.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, here's your dime.
Yeah, thanks.
What's the matter?
You...
Don't say it.
What are you going to do?
Walk out of here.
Sure.
You stay right where you are and you won't get hurt. Just keep talking to me.
Mister, I ain't got nothing to say.
Then don't say it.
Sure.
If it makes you feel any better, I didn't kill that man.
Well, I ain't said you did. The police said it. They could be wrong. Sure, they could be wrong.
Yeah, that's right. Now stay right where you are. Don't say a word to either of the other two in here until I'm out of sight. Understand?
Sure. Good night, mister. Come again. Hey, that's him. That's the guy. Somebody call the police.
Hey, taxi. Know where the park is?
Yeah, sure.
Well, drive to it fast.
Yeah. Hey, stop that guy. Somebody let that get in the gas. Stop him. What's all that noise about?
I haven't the least idea.
Park, huh? Okay. I'd sure like to know what all that noise was about.
Well, they're playing a game.
Huh?
Sure. Hare and Hounds. Ever hear of it?
Oh, yeah, I played it when I was a kid.
Huh. Then I've got news for you. It's no longer a kid's game. Mistake number 2 for Smart Boy Holiday. Another notch against me. I ran from the hamburger stand. Well, that would look bad. But I've got one bad fault among others. I'm very curious. And I was so curious to know how and why the clerk of the apartment house identified me when he didn't even see me. But if somebody paid him off to enlarge this beautiful frame around my neck, well, we'd see.
Hey, mister, I've been thinking. Ain't that Hare and Hounds game a little young for grown-ups?
I told you it wasn't a kid's game anymore.
The whole world's gone nuts.
We agree. Say, pull up here, will you?
I thought you wanted to go to the park.
It's dark there.
Huh? Well, it's dark all over. It gets that way at night, mister.
Maybe you've got something there. Oh, pull up here by the drugstore. Here you are. Keep the change.
Hey, a $5. Well, thanks, buddy.
Now, don't mention it.
I won't. Not even to the missus.
When the cab drove away, I then went into the drugstore to the phone booth. I looked up the Roxmore Apartments in the book and dialed the number. Hello. Roxmore Apartments? Is Eddie there? Eddie? He's the clerk there, isn't he? Who? Charlie. Charlie who? Madison? No, Eddie's the clerk there. Okay. Keep you, Charlie. Madison. Charles Madison. There were 3 Charles Madisons in the book. Okay. Maybe one of the 3 was the one I wanted. I left the drugstore and went back out at the street. And as I did, the cab I just got out of drove up.
Hey, you! Hey, you, wait a minute!
Well, this was it.
Hey, you!
So, you want to play Hare and Hounds, too, huh? Well, I'm sorry, but I warned you.
Now, wait a minute.
It's no longer a kid's game, not the way I play it.
Back to Hare and Hounds, another Box 13 adventure with Alan Ladd as Dan Holiday.
Well. I was adding black marks against my name faster than I could explain them away. And I knew the police would be listening in on the Roxmore switchboard. I hope my act had worked. Now, all I had to do was find the right Charlie Madison and get his story. An hour and a half and 2 Charlie Madisons later.
I'm Charlie Madison.
Clerk at the Roxmore?
Yeah, why?
I'm a writer. I'd like to get your story.
Oh, sure. Come on in.
You're married, Mr. Madison?
No.
You live alone?
Sure.
Swell. Get your coat and hat, Charlie.
Huh? What for?
I'll feel safer out on the street, away from here.
I don't get it.
Don't you recognize me, Charlie?
What are you giving me? I never saw you before in my life.
For a guy who never saw me before in his life, you gave a pretty accurate description to the police.
You're...
Yeah, I am.
Help!
Now listen, Charlie. You're not going to get hurt if you play good boy. Don't try another yell.
You're breaking my arm.
Mm-hmm. One more peep out of you, and I'll work my way up to your neck.
What do you want from me?
Information. Now, come on. I want to be out of here when the police arrive. Let's go, Charlie. I'm right behind you, and I've got a gun.
Sure.
Is there a back way out of here?
Turn to the right.
Where does this alley lead to?
To the street.
Then we go the other way.
Oh, listen, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe you ain't the guy I saw.
I know that, Charlie. There are other things. All right, stop here. It's dark enough.
What are you going to do?
Nothing. You're going to talk. Now, what do you know about Holmes?
Nothing. You only lived at the Roxmore 2 days.
Just moved in?
Yeah.
Now, Who paid you to identify me?
Nobody.
No. Who paid you?
I don't know who he was.
Was his name Worker?
I don't know, honest. I don't know.
Was he short, gray hair, little mustache?
Yeah.
His name's Worker, isn't it?
I don't know his name.
I guess you don't. But he paid you to say that you saw me go into the Holmes apartment, huh? Hey?
Yeah. Now let me go.
Oh, no, Charlie. We've got work to do. Where's the nearest payphone?
Down the street on the corner.
Okay, I'll furnish the nickel and you furnish the talk.
I don't get it. What do you want me to do now?
Help me smoke this work out into the open.
What for?
I told you, Charlie. I didn't kill Holmes. But I'd have a tough time making anyone believe that after the ring around the rosy I played tonight. Work is the boy I want. Now get moving. Now remember what you're going to say, Charlie.
Yeah, sure.
The police will trace this call. Don't let them make you repeat anything. It's a trick to hold you here until they can trace where this call comes from. Just say what I...
Hello, police? This is Charles Madison. Listen, there's something else I didn't tell you. There's another man in the Holmes murder, and I said there's...
Don't repeat. Keep talking.
Look for a man below medium height. Gray hair. Little mustache. I don't know his name. But he carries an umbrella and he wears glasses. That's all. What?
Hang up.
Well, he didn't hear the last part.
He heard it all right. Let's get out of here.
Can I go home now?
Oh, no, Charlie. I'm beginning to be real fond of you.
What are you going to do now?
You like taxi cabs, Charlie?
Huh?
We're going to ride in one cab after another till the morning papers come out.
What for?
The papers will carry the latest in the Holmes murder, including your description of the mysterious little man with gray hair, whose name is Worker.
But Worker will come after me.
Ah, now you're beginning to be bright about the whole thing.
You'll kill me.
Yes, like you did Holmes.
Oh, you won't let him. You gotta let me go.
You know, Charlie, I can't seem to work up a flood of tears for you. You framed me for money. I wouldn't have had a chance if the cleaning woman had seen me in Holmes's apartment with this gun in my hand.
Well, I'll say I lied.
Think a minute, Charlie. If you do that, it'll make you an accessory after the fact.
What's that mean?
Simply that the police would hold you equally as guilty as Worker. Or me.
Well, then what'll I do?
You know, Charlie, I'm a very curious-minded person. I could go to the police, but I'd rather play it through my way. Smoke Worker out in the open and see what this is all about.
But how?
Well, as long as Worker knows you can identify him, he'll try to find you. Get you. But if you don't go to the police, he'll know you're around somewhere, Charlie. By the way, Charlie, how does it feel to be another hare in the game? All right, pull up here, driver. Come on, Charlie, you tired of riding?
It's almost day.
Yeah. A stack of morning papers on the corner. Here you are, driver. Keep the change. Charlie, there's nothing gloomier than a city just before dawn. I'll get one of those papers.
Where are we going then?
Who knows? I've seen the whole city. Go on, get the paper.
They're tied up.
Untie them.
Yeah. Here you are.
Did you leave a nickel?
Huh?
You have a dishonest streak in you, Charlie. Come on, leave a nickel for the paper. All right, down this alley. Okay, in this doorway. Now we'll see what the papers have to say. Well, you're in, Charlie. Listen. Mysterious disappearance of Charles Madison has led the police to suspect foul play. See, Charlie?
What else does it say?
Here it is. Madison called the police late last night with another tip in the murder of Arthur Holmes. Madison volunteered the description of another man whose name he said he did not know. Meanwhile, police revealed Holmes...
What's the matter? Why'd you stop?
Meanwhile, police revealed Holmes' real name to be Albert Henning, former draftsman at the Bull Mill Aircraft Company. Henning disappeared over a week ago, and executives of the aircraft company stated that Henning was suspected of having taken micro-photographs of plans for the Navy's new twin-jet fighter.
He was a spy.
Uh-huh. And that's what he sent to Box 13. He didn't want to be caught with the photographs on him, so he used me as a hideout until he could send for them.
I don't know what you're talking about. All I know is we got to go to the police now.
You're so right, Charlie. You're so right. Come on, I'm through playing games. This has grown a little bigger than Box 13.
Both of you, stay where you are.
It's him. It's Worker.
Yeah.
Don't try to use your gun, Mr. Holliday.
It's not my gun. It's yours. The one you killed Henning or Holmes with.
That's right.
How'd you find us?
Simple. You see, Mr. Holliday, when I heard over the radio that you had escaped from Holmes's apartment, I was a little worried. I knew you'd read or heard about this fool giving your description. I thought you might go to him and perhaps to the police.
Yes, as I should have in the first place.
That's right, but you didn't. I'm glad you like adventure. So, I watched Madison's place, and I've been following you all night to see what you were going to do.
And now?
Do you want to guess?
No.
You made it perfect for me. As perfect as Henning did when he double-crossed us and tried to sell those photographs for a higher price.
Perfect for you?
Yes. Think of this. Here you are in an alleyway with the only man who identified you as the murderer of Mr. Holmes. Now, you still have the gun, and I'll take it. And be careful how you hand it to me. Please hurry. Thank you. Now, I shoot Mr. Madison first, and then you. And how does it look?
Pretty smart, but it looks as though...
It's my idea. Let me tell it. There was a struggle, shooting, and both of you are dead. Oh, it has flaws, but not glaring ones.
Don't. I'll swear I lied to the police, Mr. Worker. I'll say Holliday killed Holmes. Honest, I will.
Oh? Better still. I will give you this gun, Madison, and you will shoot Holliday while I stand in back of you. And then you will go to the police and say you got the gun away from him when he was going to kill you. Here. Now, once you kill our friend, Mr. Holliday, you will be a murderer, and you will have to keep your mouth shut. So go ahead, Mr. Madison. Pull the trigger. Go on, pull it.
Don't do it, Madison. Don't do it. Worker can't make two shootings look right.
Either you pull the trigger, Madison, or I do. It's a little better to live than to die. Hurry, you idiot!
You won't kill me?
No. There would be no need for it unless you talk, and you won't.
Madison, don't.
Hey, you down there.
Who's... It's the police!
Hit the ground, Madison. Fast!
You stop. All right, you asked for it.
Nice shooting, officer. Very nice.
All right, you two. Get up off the ground.
And believe me, I'm very happy to be able to do just that.
What's the matter with the other guy?
Nothing. Things were a little too much for him. He passed out.
That's the guy, officer. That's the guy.
Okay, you guys stand back. All right.
Officer, what kept you?
Are you kidding? We've been tracing you all night. One taxi driver after another, one cab after another. You think you're going to get away with passing those phony fives all over town?
That's right.
No, I didn't. That's why I passed them out.
What?
You know, officer, you have a very efficient police force. Oh, thanks, boys.
You mean you gave out them phony fins on purpose?
Uh-huh. A very definite purpose.
I don't get it.
You think it's funny, huh? Well, see how hard you can laugh at headquarters.
Officer, I've never been so happy to be arrested. And, boys...
Yeah?
I'll match every phony 5 with a good 10. Come on, let's go.
Hello?
Hello, Susie.
Mr. Holliday. Gee, where are you? I was worried.
You were worried? Now, listen, Susie, I'm in jail.
Yes, sir. You're what?
Yeah, get hold of Lieutenant Kling. Tell him I've got to talk to him.
But why are you in jail?
It's a long story, Susie. I'll tell you all about it when I get back. But technically, the charge is passing counterfeit money.
Mr. Holliday, you should be ashamed of yourself. All you had to do was open a charge account.
Oh, no. Good night, Susie.
Next week, same time, through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd stars as Dan Holliday in Box 13. Box 13 is directed by Richard Sandville, with an original story by Russell Hughes. Original music is composed and conducted by Rudy Schrager. The part of Susie is played by Sylvia Picker. Production is supervised by Vern Karstensen. Box 13 is a Mayfair production from Hollywood. Watch for Alan Ladd in his latest Paramount picture.
Welcome back. What a great episode. To me, this is the way, this is radio writing at its absolute best. Well done by Alan Ladd. Really, probably one of my favorites in the series. The only one that I think comes close to this one so far was Book of Poems. That was great. But this one, this is, like I said, it's just absolute best. So, great performance, great show, loved it. All right, well, we've got, we're going to starting tomorrow, we're going to talk about some of the writers of these shows. We haven't talked about them a lot. And actually, I found one of the writers of Jeff Regan is actually still living and only a couple hundred miles away from me. So I'll tell you all about that tomorrow on Jeff Regan. Well, I'd mentioned to you yesterday, and I mentioned to on the Facebook group long time before, that Jackson Gillis, a writer who wrote for Jeff Regan and who also wrote for Let George Do It, is actually still alive, living in Moscow, Idaho, as far as we know. He retired in the 1990s to Moscow, which is about 100 and some miles. So I went ahead, I found out he was alive, so I sent him a letter. I've not heard much of his work on this show, but I have on the Let George Do It set we got from Radio Archives. Most of those shows were written by Jackson Gillis. Gillis, after radio, he did Jeff Regan, and those of you who listened to the Old Time Dragnet show, you got to hear a script he wrote. He also did Let George Do It, and you got to hear that the Christmas episode was one of his that he co-wrote with David Victor, and he had a very long career, stretching from the 1950s on television all the way to the 90s. Last thing he actually wrote was an episode of Columbo, A Bird in the Hand, and he wrote a total of 11 episodes. Wrote for a wide variety of different shows: Murder, She Wrote, Knight Rider, Wonder Woman, Starsky and Hutch, Barnaby Jones, Mission Impossible, O'Hara U.S. Treasury, Hawaii Five-0, Bonanza, Wild Wild West, Lost in Space, Tarzan, The Girl from U.N.C.L.E., The Man from U.N.C.L.E., The Fugitive, a lot of episodes of Perry Mason. Lassie also wrote a Hardy Boys serial for Disney, a few episodes of Zorro, Adventures of Spin and Marty, incredible amount of writing. A lot of others, too, that were where he was credited as a story consultant, associate producer. So an incredible career when he decided to retire in the mid-90s to Moscow, Idaho, which is a couple hundred miles. It's in the central part of the state of Idaho. And so I was very surprised to find out that right now at age 93, from the best information I've got, he is still alive. The last report I read on him just indicated that he was still living in Moscow, Idaho, and that was a 2008. Several comments over there. Jocelyn, several people were enthused about that. Adam, seriously? That is awesome. Can I come too? Please. Lizzie said, amazing. I agree with Jocelyn. I want to visit with this nifty writer, too. And that would be really neat from Amanda. Any way of getting an interview, perhaps? Well, these are great thoughts, and I've actually had most of them. But I basically just sent a brief, couple paragraph introductory letter to Mr. Gillis after doing some significant search to find his Moscow address. If there's any further interest, he'll follow up, and I'll be sure to let you know. At 93, you got to respect you, and not a whole lot of information on the status. Things can happen to your health, or you can just really, really be wanting privacy. But I'm sure if anything had happened to him, it would have been in the news in Moscow. So I found that it was kind of interesting to find out that someone who wrote some of these shows we listen to is still alive and, as far as we know, well in Moscow. So we'll see if we hear back with any other interest. All right, well, we kind of went long in this segment. We'll talk a little bit more when we get back. I do want to briefly remind you, if you have any needs for web hosting or domains, remember to go to hosting.greatdetectives.net. Go to greatdetectives.net. Click on the one-in-one banner. One-in-one, world's #1 web host now with 9 million members. Just remember to go to hosting.greatdetectives.net. All right, well, we're going to get into today's episode of Jeff Regan. This one is The House by the Sea. We'll listen and then we'll come back.
My name's Jeff Regan. I get 10 a day in expenses from a detective bureau run by a guy named Lyon. Anthony J. Lyon. They call me the Lion's Eye.
With Jack Webb as Jeff Regan investigator, stand by for hard-boiled action and mystery and thrilling adventure in tonight's story of The House by the Sea.
Well, this is the way it started. I walked in the office about 11 o'clock that morning. It was a nice, warm day, and I didn't have much on my mind. That's the trouble with nice days. You take a couple of easy breaths, open somebody's door, and it's just like peeling a wrapper off an atomic bomb. The Lion was in his den, sitting behind his desk. You couldn't tell where he left off, and the desk began. He was talking to a girl with a flock of black hair. She was the kind you see driving a Cadillac convertible down Sunset Boulevard on hot Sunday afternoons. No wonder the Lion's cigar was out. Was wet on both ends.
Well, come in, Regan, come in. I was just about to call you, but now that you're here, it makes things simpler. Miss Carmen, this is Mr. Regan.
How do you do, Mr. Regan? Mr. Lyon tells me you're just the man I want.
He said the same thing to a mortician last week.
He is the man I want, Mr. Lyon.
Well, that's fine, Miss Carmen. I knew you'd be pleased. I'm very proud of Jeffrey.
As long as I'm in the cast, how about a look at the script, huh?
Miss Carmen is associated with the famous psychic consultant, Prince Carew.
I help the prince look into people's minds.
Well, that ought to be real fun if all your customers are under 6.
You don't believe in thought transference, Mr. Regan.
Do you?
I said I help the prince.
Prince Carew sent Miss Carmen to retain an operator, Jeffrey. It's a very delicate matter, and I'm placing the entire case in your hands.
Why didn't he come himself?
Do you disapprove of me?
I just want to know what's what.
Well, Prince Carew never appears in public. He prefers to spend his time in meditation and thought.
Yeah.
I handle all of his outside contacts.
So, Jeffrey, you just drive on out to Prince Carew's home in Ocean Town with Miss Carmen and speak to the prince.
What kind of a retainer did he send? How much did you get?
Now, see here, Regan, we don't discuss finances in front of clients.
Oh, stop it, will you? This is another blind spot. You don't know what it's all about. All you know is she waltzed in here with a check, and you'd sell your grandmother to a glue factory for $2. How do I know I won't wind up being a patsy again?
Is there any way I can reassure you?
Buy me a battleship.
Jeffrey, have I ever involved you in anything that I wouldn't undertake myself? Have I ever knowingly imperiled your life?
Yeah.
Jeffrey.
Come on, lady. What's it all about? You work for the guy.
Well, I really don't know. He was excited this morning, called me in, gave me this address, and told me to make arrangements.
He must have told you something.
He never tells me anything. As you say, I just work for him. Well?
All right, I'm hired.
Good, good. Now call me, Jeffrey. Call me if you run into any trouble.
Well, I asked her how about lunch. She said no. I asked her about dinner. She said something that meant no, so I gave up. You know, it's like that sometimes. The flag's up, the meter's ticking, and you're not getting anywhere. But from a couple of things she told me, I got the idea she was doing more than just helping the prince read minds. Well, his place turned out to be a good hour from downtown Los Angeles, up 101. It was a couple of stories of glass and concrete leaning out over the ocean. It was high and dry and quiet up there. And you got a feeling you should be hearing things and feeling things when you looked down and saw that water banging around the bottom of the cliff. She unlocked the door, and a guy in a white turban and some pants that looked like oversized diapers and a pair of tennis shoes was standing there. He had a big curved knife hanging around his waist, and he put his hand on it when he saw me.
Right this way, Mr. Regan.
Who's he, the butcher?
Oh, that's Telly. He works for the prince. Manservant. He's from India.
I'll bet the Indians were glad to get rid of him.
Telly's harmless, tongueless, and he doesn't hear. I like you, Mr. Regan.
Come in, come in. Thelma, my dear, you've returned with spoils. Welcome, sir, welcome.
Mr. Regan, this is Prince Carew.
Regan, the lion's eye. I've heard of you, Mr. Regan. I'm honored. Sit down. That'll be all, Thelma. Charming girl. Hmm?
She handle all your outside contacts?
Most efficiently. Except, of course, for matters that I must handle personally.
What kind of matters?
I'm in trouble, Mr. Regan, and I beg your assistance.
Well, it's all paid for.
Correct. But there's a personal bonus in this for you.
Why?
Because, sir, I want you to save my life.
You look healthy to me.
I am healthy, let me assure you. But my life has been threatened.
Well, that'd come under police business, wouldn't it?
Normally. Didn't Miss Carmen explain that this was a delicate matter?
Yeah, she did. Why didn't you call the police?
I'm hardly in a position to ask the police for assistance, Mr. Regan. It is a delicate matter.
Outside it says you're a mind reader, all right? What am I thinking now?
That I'm a charlatan, a faker, and that I'm trying to hide something from you.
That gets you the cigar.
It's been a very lucrative arrangement for the most part and very satisfactory. Except, of course, for the annoyance of having my life threatened.
Who's the guy?
It would be of no consequence if it were a man. It's a lady, Mr. Regan. A very beautiful and lovely creature. And she'd like nothing better than to see my carcass go out with the tide.
Why does she want to kill you?
A matter of confidence. Suffice it to say that she is thoroughly capable of doing just that.
How do you know?
One, she is erratic, ill-tempered, ruthless. Two, she called me this morning and told me what she intended to do.
She giving you a chance to reach for your gun?
To reach for you, Mr. Regan.
What do you want me to do?
I feel the entire matter could be settled amicably if you were to call on her. Inform her that you are my personal bodyguard and that you are here to protect my life.
You think she'd go for that?
I'm positive.
How long you been blackmailing her?
What?
Well, your racket might last 6 months or a year, but not long enough to pay for a place like this. The answer's blackmail, isn't it?
Okay. I should have told you.
How do you do it?
I can slip them into a trance. They spill a family secret or two. I push a buck that way.
That's nice.
If you want the minds read, I read them. $25 a brain.
And shakedown.
The guy's got to eat.
You put the squeeze on her.
She's an actress. She was in on a deal at the studios.
She wouldn't shake?
At first, I just told her I had to have a larger fee. Then they come out with it, cold turkey.
And she said she'd blow your head off.
Yeah, she's the kind. I went wrong on this one. I'm in a spot.
Who is she?
Grace Nichols, movie actress. Ever heard of her?
Redhead.
Makes you want to go home and kick your wife downstairs if you got one.
That good?
Better. But she means this business about pumping me. And I won't look good dead.
All right, where's she live?
Over in the Palisades. Here's her address. You going over there now?
Yeah.
Be careful.
She isn't gunning for me.
That isn't what I mean. There's a skinny boy there. He's nasty, no callers. Name of Tim Rogers.
I'll remember that.
I hope you can talk her out of it. I've been sweating. I don't want to shake her down. I just want to get a little sleep at night. I
left him sitting there, scratching his bald head under his turban. He looked about as happy as a guy who just ate a Vaseline sandwich. Well, Grace's place was too big for a marble game and too small for football. I think I remember reading something about how she got it from her third husband. There was a big wire fence all around it and a sign every 15 or 20 feet telling you not to trespass. So I parked my car outside the driveway and walked up to the front door. A guy in a chauffeur's uniform was standing there. He looked like a razor blade with arms. He gave me the fisheye and blew smoke in my face and kind of nudged me with his shoulder.
Move on, Pilgrim. No handouts here.
I came to see Grace Nichols.
Yeah.
I got business with her.
Yeah.
So tell her I'm here.
Blow.
You always like this, or did you miss lunch today?
I don't know who you are, Pilgrim, but I don't like you. Beat it.
I know you. There's something about a guy in a lineup.
Yeah?
He memorizes real easy.
Copper.
Investigator.
Private or city, I don't care. You all smell the same.
This isn't hunting season. You always carry a .38?
Does it show?
Maybe you got a broken rib.
A real funny guy. I met all kinds of funny guys. Tripped.
I said I wanted to see her.
And I said she wasn't in.
All right, I'll tell you once more. I got business with her.
So do a couple of hundred other guys.
Watchdog?
Now you're getting smart.
You weren't.
What kind of a crack is that?
I want to see her, I'm going to see her.
Trick I learned a long time ago. Shoot a guy in the knee and he'll never walk straight again.
You ever done it?
Oh, yes. That's how I learned.
Ow! That's one I learned, baby.
Well, I might have to get a new chauffeur. You looking for a job?
I already got one, lady.
Timmy's going to be awfully upset when he finds out what happened to him. When someone works for me, they have to be perfect. Want his job?
They wouldn't let me in.
I'll let you in. You, do that kind of thing often?
When I have to.
I suppose you have a name.
It's Regan. I'm a private investigator.
All right, Mr. Regan, you've earned a perfectly good chauffeur and bodyguard, and you're in my house. What have we got to talk about?
A guy named Carew.
The prince? Must we talk about him?
He thinks you're dangerous stuff.
So do a lot of people. Tell me, Mr. Regan, what do you think?
About what?
Me.
Right now, or when I'm a couple of feet away?
Right now.
Look, remember, I just got here.
I know. You must have a first name. What is it?
Jeff.
Oh, Jeff, we'll get along. It's in the cards.
Pretty fast deal.
I like it this way. Fast.
Might be a bum deck.
Never mind. Deal.
That's the bell. How much time between rounds?
Well, you know me better. Hello? Yes? Yes, right here. You know a man named Lion, Jeff?
Uh-huh.
He seems to be roaring.
Give it to me. Yeah.
Regan, is that you?
Well, now, how do you figure it?
Now, don't be smart. Who's the dame who answered the phone?
Our client's friend.
Sounds like she's a friend of yours now, or maybe you have been doing some road work.
Did you have something to say, or is this the day you turned scoutmaster? I'm busy.
Well, you can stop being busy, lover. It's all off.
Don't tell me you're passing up a fee.
I'm passing up nothing. Prince Carroll called me 10 minutes ago and told me to forget the whole thing, and that's what I'm telling you.
How'd you know I was here?
The prince told me, so it's all over. Finished. Forget it.
I've already started something.
I don't care what you've started. Now, just remember, you finish it on your own time and expense sheet.
You look worried, Jeff. Anything I can do?
I'm called off.
You mean you're out of a job? I got one. Remember, you put my bodyguard out of commission. You owe me something.
Oh, Tim, boy, he'll come around.
I don't want Tim anymore. I want you. I'll get you a drink. We can talk about it.
Carew told me that Tim was a pretty good boy.
You can fill his shoes. Come here and get your drink. Now, tell me about 9 o'clock tonight.
It'll get dark.
I got a new dress. I think you'll like it.
I probably would.
There's a place above Malibu. We could have dinner and listen to some music. I want to be with you, Jeff.
That deal's fast again.
I don't care. I don't care. I just decided something, Jeff. I'm going to like being with you. I'm going to like it a lot.
Well, she didn't want me to go, but I was thinking about the prince and the way everything looked. I told her I'd see her that night. I was just climbing into my car when Tim Rogers, her ex-number 1 boy, stepped out from the gate. I waited for him to walk over.
Pretty good with your women, Regan.
You look lonely, Timmy. Somebody stole your popsicle?
Bum joke, Regan. I've been waiting to talk to you. You were so quiet in the house I didn't want to make any noise.
Any better here?
You came out champ this afternoon. But you won't even make the prelims next time.
You got something to say?
Stay away from her.
You're shaking. You need a drink.
Stay away from her, Regan. I've been with her too long. Known her too long to take the bounce from a two-bit gun heel.
Goodbye.
I'm not finished yet.
That's your version. Now get your foot off that running board, punk, or I'll take it with me. I left him standing in the middle of the driveway. If I'd have waited another minute, he'd have been crying. I stopped off and had some barbecued ribs at a drive-in out on Sunset. It was just getting dark when I got to my place. I had company. It was Velma Carmen, Prince Carews' right-hand man. She was sitting on the edge of my sofa. Her back was as stiff as a filing cabinet, and there was a little ring of white around her lip. She looked like she'd just been measured for a coffin. There was a .25 automatic sitting in her lap.
I've been waiting for you, Mr. Regan. I asked the janitor to let me in.
Yeah?
He was very nice about it. I told him I was associated with one of your clients. Yes, I told him I was associated with one of your clients. Did you know that Prince Carew was my husband?
Since when?
Oh, a long time now, a long time. Not many people know that.
Is that what you came here to tell me?
No. I came to tell you that you don't have to worry anymore. None of us have to worry anymore.
You mean you're calling me off the case?
That's it. That's exactly it. I'm calling you off the case.
Well, I've already been called off. My office phoned me when I was over at her house.
Grace Nichols?
Yeah.
Then it was about her?
Yeah.
Well, then, we don't have to worry anymore, do we?
Nope.
She's very pretty, isn't she? I've seen her many times. I think she's quite pretty. I could hardly blame the prince. I could hardly blame him at all.
What are you getting at?
Of course, all the others were pretty, too.
Where'd you get that gun?
This? I bought it for $30.
Let me see it, huh?
Oh, yes. I brought it here so I could show it to you. I paid $30 for it. I paid $30. I'd imagine the air would be cleaner in there, don't you?
What are you talking about?
I mean, it's really very humane, they tell me. It's just like sitting down and never waking up. I read all about it. You just walk in and sit down, and if you don't try to hold your breath, you go to sleep, don't you? You've met murderers before, Mr. Regan. Do I make a good murderer? Do I make a good murderer?
Stop it, will you? You trying to tell me you killed him?
Oh, Mr. Regan, that's why I came here. I shot him. I walked up behind him and I put the gun close to his back and pulled the trigger. They don't make such a great deal of noise, do they? I left him sitting there in his house by the sea, and he looks very much alive. Only he isn't alive at all. Now answer me. Now answer me. Do I make a good murderer? Do I make a good
You are listening to the story of The House by the Sea, tonight's adventure with Jeff Regan, investigator. They're still available for qualified nurses. Yes, the Army Nurse Corps Reserve still has commissions available. If you are a graduate registered nurse between the ages of 21 and 45, you may be eligible for a commission in the Army Nurse Corps section of the Regular Officers Reserve. To find out if you do qualify for a commission in the Army Nurse Corps Reserve, apply to the Adjutant General, Washington, D.C. And now, back to the story of The House by the Sea and Jeff Regan, investigator.
Well, after she got through, she settled down to a slow, even kind of a giggle that started somewhere around her shoelaces and didn't get past her knees. It was one of those things that gives you a feeling like somebody's standing in back of you with a red-hot iron ready to press your pants before you get them off. Now, she wasn't going to do any more talking, so I went downstairs and brought back a doctor friend of mine named Sammy Wing. He brought his little black bag with him and gave her a shot of something, and she wilted like last night's orchid and went to sleep on my couch. Sammy began talking.
Some playmate.
Wish I'd have been here for the party. I had 4 appendectomies and 1 broken leg today. So all alive.
Well, how is she?
You know her better than me.
No, she's going to be all right.
Well, she'll wake up in 5 or 6 hours. I want some water.
And then what?
She might ask you what happened, or it might start all over again, whatever it was. By the way, what was it?
Well, I found her here when I got home.
I should find something like this.
She said she killed an ex-client of mine.
Oh, maybe I'm lucky at that. What does all the past tense mean?
I was called off the case.
Oh, nice. It's all clean. No clients to protect. Is there a corpse someplace?
I don't know, Sammy.
Call the police. They'll find out. And then you and me can go out and get a drink.
She said she used this gun. Smell it, Sammy. It hasn't been fired. Safety catch is still on.
She's pretty and she's nice, and I'll bet she looks like $1 million in a bathing suit. But if I'd have met her within the last 3 hours, I'd have run for help. Call the police.
Is that professional?
This is acute hysteria. The kind that pops off guns and pops off people, and there's a lot of things they can't remember later on. Call the police.
What about the gun?
Other guns. Call the coroner while you're at it. Tell him to go out there with some DOA forms. He'll use them.
Will you stay here with her till I get back?
Corpse hunt?
Just an idea.
Hitler had an idea.
The odds were against him.
You got about as much chance as a 3-legged horse in the Kentucky Derby. She's bit somebody, and she's told you about it.
I want to make sure.
What do they do when a private eye walks in and messes up a nice, clean murder?
Sammy, will you stay?
Got any bourbon around here?
Yeah.
Okay, take your time. Maybe both of us will get our pictures in the paper.
I left him with a kind of a soft smile on his face, like he had some inside information on Tuesday's winner at Del Mar. Well, it was 9:30 by the time I got there, and it was dark enough to give a ghost a creeps. It was different, too. Maybe it was the fog. I used that ring of keys I'd taken from her purse. It smelled dry and funny inside, and it was real quiet, like somebody was waiting for the world to fall apart. I clicked on my flashlight, and I walked down the long hall to his office. He was there, just like she said. There were 3 holes in the front of his shirt, but it wasn't the laundry's fault. I spotted the .38 on the floor by his hand. I broke it, and 3 cartridges came out. It was the right gun for the job. He was pretty messed up. While I was standing there trying to figure Velma Carmen's story, the lights came on. A fat man wearing a sheriff's star was standing by the switch. There was a taller man in a brown overcoat next to him. They both looked like they'd just finished dinner.
Scavenger hunt, son? You don't talk, Charlie.
Ain't much for him to say, is there, Cap?
Guess not. Well, son?
Well, it looks like you're going to be calling me names.
What do you like best? Killer, murderer, or slayer? The papers use slayer a lot.
I don't like any of them.
Kind of breezy for a hot boy, ain't you? Mind giving me a name?
It's Regan. I'm a private detective.
It's Regan. He's a private detective, Cap.
Yeah. Got a card or something with you, son?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's right. With International. Lion still there?
Yep.
Who's that?
An old bum I used to know. Regan, why do you go around killing people? The Lion will be mad.
Look, this is a fix.
Now, why do you want to say a thing like that?
Somebody tip you?
Phone call a little while ago.
Huh?
Funny kind of a voice, a whisper. Said we'd find a stiff up here, but didn't say we'd find you.
You're extra.
Look, I just came here to see what it was all about.
Same thing we did. Only we come up with a suspect and a corpse. No cop could ask for anything better. Charlie, better call a coroner. Oceantown's just a small place, Regan. Only me and Charlie around. We borrow from the county when we get something like this.
I can find you a real answer in an hour.
You let me and Charlie worry about that. You look good enough for the time being. All right, son. Let's go.
I had as much chance as an elephant in a tea room, and if those two locked me up and booked me. So I leaned back into his gun and spun around and knocked his wrist down. He pulled the trigger, so that time I flicked the light switch and was out the door. I didn't run for my car. I cut across the driveway and doubled back up the hill. I could hear him yelling and shooting out in the dark. I hailed a cab about 5 blocks away, and he took me to the place above Malibu. I found her in the booth with a piano player. She was wearing one of those black strapless things, and it was worrying a couple of bald-headed guys sitting at the bar.
You're late, Jeff. We said 9 o'clock. I've had 3 drinks all alone. You want me to get mad, or are you going to catch up?
How long you been here?
You sound like you're out of the mood.
I thought we were going to look at the stars together.
How long you been here?
It's 9 o'clock. What's the matter?
I've been working tonight.
Well, it's after hours now. Tell me how you like my new dress.
It's the right color, but the wrong cut for a funeral.
I haven't read the obituaries today.
It'll be in tomorrow's paper, only it'll make the front page.
Have a drink? Let's wait for tomorrow.
Your friend was killed tonight.
What friend?
Keiru.
He was no friend of mine. I told you that.
So did he.
Car smash up, or did he fall off his house?
38.
We didn't talk about him this afternoon. Let's not start now.
Look, 2 cops in Ocean Town are kind of crowding me. They think I'm going to take a good picture.
Is that why you're late?
It's a murder rap, lady.
We should have had dinner together.
They'll be knocking down your door in the morning.
Why, darling?
Because you threatened to kill him, because he hired me to call you off.
Oh, wait a moment, Jeff. You've been having fun up to now. Who told you that?
Why do you think he sent me over today to sell magazines?
I never found out you were called off. I suppose he hired you to scare me. Jeff, we're old friends now. I can tell you a family secret.
I know about him blackmailing you, and that puts you ahead of me for the cops. Did you do it?
I don't know. Did you? What he told you don't sound right.
What does sound right?
I went to him one day and put him in a trance, only I used scotch. Found out what he was doing and how I was doing it, so I turned the tables. It was good, clean fun, but expensive for him.
You've been draining him?
I thought that's why you came today. That's why I had Timmy around.
Well, some of this is beginning to make change. If he was your meal ticket, then you got an alibi.
I don't feel like stars anymore, Jeff. Let's go over to my place and talk.
On the way over, she didn't have much to say, and I couldn't think of anything. I was all too mixed up. If she'd really been shaking him down, then she figured out. And the girl back in my apartment figured in. Only she had the wrong gun. And then there was a little business that I'd have to explain with the Ocean Town cops. Well, when we turned in the driveway, I stopped figuring. Tim Rogers, the man with the guns, was there, standing on the porch.
Oh, gorgeous. I've been waiting to see you. You're home late.
I thought I fired you.
Still tramping with this tramp, huh? I thought you'd be sick of him by now.
For once, I'm glad to see you, Tim boy.
That sounds cozy, but I don't want to see you.
I know where your 38 is.
You're wrong. It's her 38. And it's got her prints on it.
Jeff, he's making it look bad for me.
Ask him what he's doing here, will you?
Just in for a showdown, Angel. You're tagged for his murder. They'll want you. I fixed it good. I can fix it so you can get away.
How?
A friend of mine shoving off at Pedro. 4 o'clock. To go all over the world.
Jeff, if all of this is straight, I'm in a spot.
Relax. This guy never did anything right.
Tell me how I'm wrong.
All right, that tip to the Ocean Town cops was wrong. Trying to pile up a scare on me was wrong. Killing Keiru was wrong, and this clinches it.
Yeah? Well, that's where you're twisted, Pilgrim. I got a warrant out for you right now. Plugging a murder suspect is something they'll thank me for.
You said her prints were on that gun?
They'll find that out in the morning. And how was I to know? Just happened to hear on the radio they were looking for you tonight. I see you, I plug you. Everybody will be sorry, but it'll be manslaughter and suspended. I worked it once in Toledo. What do you say, Angel? Do I plug him and meet you somewhere in 2 weeks?
Let me have a smoke. Let me think it over.
Sure. Sure, go ahead. Angel.
Well, the gun's empty now.
I carried this for 3 years. I never used it. He deserved to die, didn't he? Didn't he, Regan, didn't he?
I don't know, lady. You knew him better. Well, it unwound like red thread in the Levi factory. Grace Nichols had been putting the shake on the prints. He got tired of it and called me in and told me his phony stories, so he'd have a good self-defense angle when he finally got around to shooting her some afternoon. He had Tim planted there to keep me from really seeing her. Oh, it was a nice idea, only I bounced Tim and got inside. And then Tim made a phone call, and the lion jerked me before I had a chance to compare notes with her. I guess Tim went kind of crazy, seeing how well we got along together, and he figured Grace would do anything if she was wanted for murder. So he killed the prince and made her the patsy with those fingerprints. She'd handled the gun before, see. But then I had my caller, Velma Carmen, the prince's wife. She went kind of crazy, too, when she walked in and found him dead. It took 3 doctors a couple of weeks to tell her what really happened. When I told it all to the lion, he was mad at first, but then he saw Grace Nichols' picture in the paper. He asked just one question. What was I doing at Grace's place all afternoon? I didn't even bother to answer him.
With Wilms Herbert as Anthony J. Lyon. It's CBS same time next week for hard-boiled action and mystery with Jeff Regan, Investigator. Written by E. Jack Newman, produced by Sterling Tracy. The role of Grace Nichols was played by Betty Lou Gerson, David Ellis was Tim Rogers, Lorene Tuttle was Velma Carmen, and Marvin Miller was Prince Carew. 29,000 nurses are needed to join the new Army Nurse Corps Officers Reserve. 4,000 of them, if they wish, may choose active duty. All nurses who receive reserve commissions will benefit from the opportunity for specialized training offered to them by the Army. The educational opportunities offered the nurse by the Army Medical Department will be of great advantage to her in her work. Don't wait. If you're a registered graduate nurse between the ages of 21 and 45, drop a card now for complete information to the Adjutant General, Washington, D.C. Original music for this program is by Dick Arant. Jeff Regan, Investigator, is heard every Saturday at 9:30 over CBS. Bob Stevenson speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System. Remember, friends, during the week when you ask for Avalon cigarettes,
Don't forget your change.
oh, why not always Avalon with Avalon? Yes, you'd never guess, but Avalon costs only 10 cents plus city or state tax. Ladies and gentlemen, Red Skelton will appear at the Chicago Theater starting next Friday, along with John Bowles and Basil Pitt. And Red will be back with us next Saturday evening at the same time when the Brown and Williamson Tobacco Corporation will again present Avalon Time. Del King speaking. Good night. Avalon Time has come to you from our Chicago studio. An apple for the teacher is from the production of Star Maker.
Welcome back. Well, you gotta say this for the Lion. He tends to, I guess with lower prices, tends to attract some lower mental stability clients. But Regan, it's somewhat ironic. Regan gets the girl after he finds out she's a blackmailer. Would not be, and she thinks blackmail's fun. So, I question his taste somewhat. Even though it's kind of different for him to actually end up getting the girl. All right, well, we have some more comments, and I wanted to go ahead and we've got a couple fairly long comments from listeners. I'm going to hold those back for just a moment. I think I'll actually hold those for tomorrow because we tend to have a little less on Let George Do It. And I was thinking about the writers on the show, just kind of because of the Jackson Gillis thing. To kind of talk about who these are, because these tend to be the people who consistently had an influence on not only radio but television for decades. And a lot of these people crossed over. One of them was E. Jack Newman. We've talked a little bit about his radio writing credits, which are quite incredible. He did Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, several episodes of that. He did some Sam Spade, Richard Diamond, some Suspense, some Escape, even some Dr. Kildare, which kind of surprised me. The Whistler, on stage, just a wide variety, amazing variety of programs written. He also went to television, and there he E. Jack Newman wrote the first teleplay, bringing Philip Marlowe to television in 1954, when he wrote for Dick Powell in an episode of Climax, adapting The Long Goodbye to television. Over the course of his television career, he wrote for Police Story, was probably his most famous work, but he also won a total of 3 Edgar Awards and got nominated for another. The one he got nominated for was the episode of Climax he wrote. So a wide variety of different movies, very long career, influential. And we'll talk a little more tomorrow about David Victor and Herbert Little Jr., what their careers were like. Because I kind of want us to. I'll just talk a little bit about the writers because I think they're important, and that's not just because I am one and I'm the president of a local writers group, but they're really the ones who come up with a lot of these amazing ideas that keep the story so fresh. Because if you, I think everybody has seen a movie where they've just got a great actor in it, but you watch it and you go, this was just such a waste of good talent and good potential. Now, without good writing, it doesn't come together. And we've talked a lot about the different actors, but I want to get a little more on the writers, so we'll talk about that in the next couple of days. And we got a couple more comments I'm going to hold over for tomorrow. I will, however, get to an email here. Lance emails in. I was wondering if my favorite brunette regarding a movie idea was available in the public domain. It's a great spoof of the hard-boiled genre with Bob Hope. And the answer to that is yes, that is in the public domain. I'm going to watch it, see what I think of it. It's a fascinating idea, great cast, and I'll see what I think of the execution and how it goes. But I'm looking at that. I'm thinking about doing that in a couple of months. Next month, we're going to go back to the Rathbone Bruce Sherlock Holmes films for Terror by Night. But then maybe next month, maybe the month after that, in July, we might do that. He says, I'd also like to cast my vote for Casey Crime Photographer and The Fat Man to be added to the list of future shows. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Lance. They're both on it. And finally, I want to just welcome Valerie on as a premium subscriber. Thanks so much for your support of the program, and we will get that added. Well, we continue to talk a little bit about the writers. Well, what about the incumbents here on Let George Do It are, of course, Herbert Little Jr. and David Victor. Herbert Little Jr.'s career was the lesser of the two. He worked on wrote for a lot of Western shows. He did several episodes of The Rifleman, Rawhide, Gunsmoke, did an episode of Broken Arrow. There's not actually in the Internet Movie Database a whole lot of information on Victor biographically. No birth date, no death date, no locations. So it kind of seemed to fade away. Victor, David Victor, on the other hand, had a very long and successful career on radio and in television. On TV, he was best known as the writer and executive producer for Marcus Welby, M.D. Did some Man from U.N.C.L.E., Girl from U.N.C.L.E., Dr. Kildare. His big one, of course, was Marcus Welby, and he won an Emmy for that and was nominated for several other Emmy awards through his writing and producing. And in terms of Little actually has very little screen or even radio credits outside of Let George Do It. His other big credit, he did one episode of The Whistler. He did a few episodes of Matinee Theater, which was kind of the direction his career went. He didn't really deal with anything detective-y, after Let George Do It, as far as I can tell. All right, well, we're going to get into today's episode of Let George Do It in just a second, but I do want to let you know about a special offer. For you, the listeners of the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a 14-day free trial to give you a chance to check out their service. And we've continued to recommend on the show The Shadow, Night of Darkness, including 2 never-before-released episodes of The Shadow, but there are many other books. You can find up to 75,000 different titles for your iPod, iPhone, or MP3 player. And we've got a special URL to check it out, to try and get the trial. It's audiblepodcast.com/oldtimeradio, audiblepodcast.com/oldtimeradio for the 14-day trial. And you can take a look at all the purchasing options over at greatdetectives.net. But let's go ahead. We're going to get into today's episode of Let George Do It. The Father Who Had Nothing to Say.
Standard of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. The Father Who Had Nothing to Say, another adventure of George Valentine.
Personal notice, danger's my stock and trade. If you're perched behind the 8 ball and can't see the clear, call on me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Dear Mr. Valentine, for 10 years now, since I was 14, I've lived with a secret. The fact that I'm the son of a murderer convicted for life. Now I'm going to take a step I know may threaten everything that means happiness to me. Still in all conscience, I must take it. And I can't think of anyone who can help me, except perhaps you. Suppose we talk this over as quickly as possible.
As quickly as possible so I can supply what you so blithely call full details. Find Ralph Lochner.
Brooksy?
Yes, George?
Without knowing any more about the young man and what he says in his letter, I think I'd like to knock myself out trying to help him.
But aside from the startling fact that his father is a convicted murderer, he didn't say very much.
Yeah, but the way he said it, Angel. Take a step that threatens his happiness, and he must take it in all conscience. That's a nice phrase, in all conscience.
Well, if things have worked out for him in the last 10 years, well, why doesn't he leave well enough alone?
Well, that's what we're going to find out, Brooksy.
Oh, I suppose that means we're on our way.
Huh? Could we do anything else? I mean, in all conscience?
Mr. Valentine, some cynical people would say the best thing in the world happened to me when my father was convicted of killing that woman.
Well, that's a sweet way of looking at it.
Well, what did happen to me? I lived with my father in a basement room of an apartment hotel. He was a handyman there. Not very much to look forward to.
Well, men have started much lower in life than that.
But then my father suddenly becomes a front-page sensation. The murderer of Lillian Wayne. And I get put in an orphanage. That's what you'd say. But it wasn't.
Go on.
Well, then all sorts of wonderful things happened to Harry Peterson's kid. That's me. Mr. and Mrs. Lochner adopt me. I get sent to the finest schools. My name's legally changed so that the secret is dead and buried.
But, you still can't forget your real father, can you?
No, I can't, Miss Brooks. I can only think of him as a pathetic little man who did all he could for me, not as a murderer.
But you were only 14 then, Ralph. You naturally wouldn't want to think anything like that of your father. But the courts...
I know. Guilty. With a recommendation for mercy.
Well, he got a fair trial, didn't he?
Yes, and I can appreciate how fair. You see, my foster father, Carl Lochner, let me choose whatever profession I wanted. The next month I'm going to be admitted to the bar.
Yeah?
Well, I've gone all through the records of my father's trial, the testimony of the witnesses. Yes, he got a very fair trial.
Well, what's on your mind? What's this step you've got to take, the one you mentioned in your letter?
Well, knowing something about the law, I've decided that damning as the evidence was against my father, most of it was circumstantial. And he never did admit he killed that girl.
But, well, if this is just a feeling you have and the case is 10 years old...
Look, Ralph, you ought to know it's going to take something a lot more concrete than that to get past the receptionist at the DA.
Yes, but at least I'll feel I've done all I can.
Oh, son, is this Mr. Valentine, the gentleman you told me about?
Oh, yes, Father, and this is Miss Brooks.
Oh, how do you do?
Dad, I told Valentine everything, and I hope you still don't feel that...
No, Ralph, I thought it over. I think you're right.
Well, frankly, Mr. Lochner, I don't know what good I can do.
And digging around in the past always involves a risk. I mean, publicity.
Yes, and my secret may not remain a secret. Father and I have been all through that.
You can understand my anxiety, Mr. Valentine. Ralph's starting out in a career that holds a great deal of promise. He's engaged to Irene Masterson, a lovely girl from a fine family.
If she has to find out that I'm the son of a murderer, then, well, that's the way it'll have to be. You just do what you think is necessary, Mr. Valentine.
Mr. Valentine, the warden told me you're going to try to prove I'm innocent. I want you to do nothing. Get out.
Now, wait a minute, Peterson.
I don't want you to reopen the case. You will not find anything different.
Aren't you changing your tune after 10 years? Not once did you admit you killed Lillian Wayne.
Just the same, you stay out of this. And do not come back to see me again.
Wait, take it easy, Peterson. We still got a few minutes.
You heard what I said.
Yeah. I may as well tell you, no matter how you feel about it, I'm going to find out the truth.
Why do you do this when I tell you no?
Your son wants it that way, Mr. Peterson.
Ralph?
Yeah.
Look at me, Valentine. You see, a very happy man.
I don't believe it.
Prison has been good to me. Here I learned to read and write. I'm in charge of the books in the library.
Your life's complete, huh?
10 years ago, I fixed it so my son gets everything I could never give to him. Now in the newspapers, I read he's marrying big society girl. He is happy. I am happy. Well, you poke your nose in. Don't you like to see people happy?
Look, Peterson, let's stop kidding each other. You'd rather throw away a chance to get out of this place than to have people find out that Ralph Peterson and Ralph Lochner are one and the same.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Have it your way, Peterson. But if you didn't kill Lillian Wayne, it's my job to find out who did. And believe me, I'm going to give it a good try.
Miss Brooks, 12 good men and true decided that beyond any reasonable doubt, Harry Peterson murdered Lillian Wayne.
I know, Lieutenant, but George called up and asked me to come over and see if you have any additional information.
Well, just what I gave you there. Copy what you want.
Okay.
It's all a matter of public record. Say, just a second, Miss Brooks. Hold it. Is there something Valentine knows about this case that I don't know? Huh? I mean, just being a member of the police force.
Oh, I couldn't tell you. The last time I heard from him, he was calling from the penitentiary after he saw Mr. Peterson.
What? You mean he went all the way up there to... another one of his hunches, huh?
Say, what's the name of this witness here, Lieutenant?
You can read, Miss Brooks. But I tell you, there can't be anything to it. 5 witnesses put Harry Peterson on the scene of the crime. His fingerprints were all over the table lamp that was used to knock her out.
And, what about motive, Lieutenant Riley?
Well, to pull it delicately, Miss Brooks, this little shrimp gets a yen for Lillian Wayne, who's, by the way of being a gorgeous model. She can't see him, he can't take no for an answer, and zowie.
Very delicately put, Lieutenant.
Well,
if it's as open as shut as all that, George will just come up with the answer you've got here.
Well, of course. There's only one answer. He's just wasting his... Oh, never mind. I'm just whistling in the dark.
Yeah? Mr. Donnelly?
Not so loud.
Huh? What's the matter?
Look, miss, did you ever have a baby? Oh, wrong question, huh? Well, anyway, come on in. But try to be quiet.
Hey, what's this all about?
Oh, it's the kid. The wife's out shopping. You should have seen the time I had getting that baby to sleep. Say, who are you anyway? And how'd you know who I was?
Look, where can we talk above a whisper?
Oh, well, come on in. Okay, now what do you want?
I'm just checking on exactly what happened to Lillian Wayne the day she was murdered.
Who?
Lillian Wayne.
Yeah, I heard you. But why are you bringing that up? Look, who are you, mister?
Just someone who's not so sure Harry Peterson killed Miss Wayne.
Oh, I don't know anything about that. I told the police my story. Sure, I had a fight with Lillian, but that was all.
And they let it go at that?
They had to. Well, I went down the elevator an hour before the chambermaid saw Peterson go into the apartment.
What was the fight about?
Just me waking up to find out what a sucker I was.
Hey, translate that, will you?
Well, I was a pretty sharp middleweight those days. Dames a dime a dozen. But Lillian says she's only got eyes for me. And like a school kid, I believed her.
Oh, then you found out about the little black book.
Yeah, but that I didn't know till later, Peterson's trial. All I knew then was that some guy was sending flowers to her every day from the flower shop around the corner. So we had a fight, and I guess I lost my temper.
How badly did you lose it?
Well, I guess I poked her one.
Oh.
Uh-huh. Well, if it weren't for Peterson, then you would have been tagged for suspect number 1.
Don't remind me, pal. And for Pete's sake, don't let this get back to my wife. She don't know anything about me and Lillian.
Oh, don't worry, Donnelly. I have to be good at keeping secrets.
Oh, thanks. You don't know my wife's temper. If she ever found out, she'd knock my ears off.
Now, Mr. Valentine, just who sent you to see me? I'm very busy. I have an elaborate floral wreath to make up.
No one sent me, Mr. Jeffries. Your name just happens to be on the list of witnesses in the Lillian Wayne case.
Oh?
And Mike Donnelly mentioned that you own this flower shop near Lillian's apartment hotel.
Mike Donnelly.
Mhm.
That thug. I was hoping by now he had his head knocked off in the ring.
Oh, my, such unruly passions, Mr. Jeffries.
Yes, what have you got against Mike?
That man actually assaulted me in the corridor during the trial, just because I told the truth.
Which is?
It was Donnelly who bought the flowers I was delivering to Miss Wayne that day. I keep a record of every transaction in my store. A very methodical man.
That's very interesting.
I don't know why I should have gotten so excited. The police cleared him of any connection with the murder.
Yeah, that was hardly gratitude, was it, Mr. Jeffries?
What do you mean?
Well, it was mostly your testimony that placed Harry Peterson in the dead woman's apartment at the time of the murder.
There was no question about that. It was Peterson who came to the door and accepted the flowers.
But it seems stupid, doesn't it, to answer the door when you have a corpse on your hands?
Oh, not at all. Peterson worked there. He knew that I'd have the manager let me in so I could place the flowers in the water.
And something equally stupid, allowing himself to be seen.
Oh, he tried not to show himself, but he had to sign a receipt. That's when I got a glimpse of him. Oh, it was Peterson, all right.
Receipt?
Yes. That's right.
You didn't mention a receipt in any of your court testimony.
I assure you I had all I could do to answer the barrage of questions they kept throwing at me.
I see. You said you were a methodical man, Mr. Jeffries. I guess you kept that little memento of the Wayne trial.
Well, I probably have it in the envelope with the clippings of the trial. Somewhere in that desk drawer there.
Uh-huh.
Naturally, Peterson didn't sign his own name. He thought he was being smart, scribbling down a phony one. Larrabee, as I remember.
I see. Well, that's it, I guess. Thanks for your cooperation, Mr. Jeffries.
Don't mention it. Now maybe I can finish that floral wreath.
All right, George, let's have it. Why'd you give up so easily? About the receipt.
Just being cautious, Angel.
But you said yourself it would be so conclusive, one way or the other. Just comparing the handwriting with Peterson.
Yeah, I know, Brooksy. But as I said, let's take it easy like. Jeffries is lying through his teeth, but I can't afford to scare him off until I find out why.
You mean he actually framed poor Peterson?
I'm sure of it. You see, Angel, Peterson couldn't possibly have signed that receipt.
Huh?
He didn't learn to read or write until after he was sent to prison.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. Meantime, here's some exciting, valuable news for today's car owners. Atlas Tire engineers have produced a new tire that gives the softest ride you've ever had, even when you're on the roughest roads. It's the Atlas Grip Safe Cushion Air, kind of big brother to the famous Atlas Grip Safe tire. Cushion Air is a big brother because it has the same quality, extra safety, quietness, and steering ease of Atlas Grip Safe tires, plus more air at lower pressure to put your car on a cushion of air. And it's backed by the most valuable warranty in the tire industry, the written Atlas warranty that's good at 38,000 stations in 48 states and Canada 7 days a week. Ask about extra low-pressure Atlas Cushion Air tires tomorrow. They're made especially for new cars and can be adapted to many older models, too. Ask at an independent Chevron gas station or a standard station where they say and mean, we'll take better care of your car. And now, back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. Well, a very intense young man named Ralph Lochner says he wants you to make sure, one way or the other, if his father is guilty of the murder he was convicted of 10 years ago. Finally, if you play it like George Valentine, you arrive at the unshakable conviction that the father is innocent. And in effect, that's just what you're telling Ralph and his foster father, Carl Lochner, right now.
It's as simple as that, gentlemen.
What do you mean?
I know Mr. Peterson didn't kill Lillian Wayne. I might even be able to prove it. But it would be a lot easier and a lot surer if first I found out who the murderer really was.
Why didn't that fool Jeffrey say something about a receipt? Of course my father could never have signed it. I remember as a kid how ashamed I was because he couldn't read or write.
I know how you feel, Ralph. It was a terrible oversight.
Oversight? 10 years of someone's life gone just like that? Because some stupid florist forgets to mention a receipt?
Well, Jeffries might have forgotten that little thing. But he was deliberately lying when he identified the man at the door as your father.
Well, let's do something about it. Turn him over to the police.
Now, hold it, will you, fella?
They'd shake the truth out of him. I'd like to be the lawyer for the prosecution. I'd see
What
that
if he
got...
said he made an honest mistake? After all, there were other witnesses.
What do you propose to do, Valentine?
Well, I'd like to know why Jeffries put the finger on Mr. Peterson, whom he was trying to protect.
Do you think he's at all suspicious?
Oh, he's bound to be a little, but I tried to ease out of it.
I'd feel a lot better if we had that receipt.
Oh, it's safe enough. It's in the middle drawer of the desk in back of his florist shop.
Mm-hmm. I agree with your thinking, Valentine, but just the same, you're up against a pretty impossible job. The name Larrabee is patently fictitious, and this is a murder that's 10 years old. Where do you start?
With the obvious, Mr. Lochner. And I can't think of anyone more obvious than our ex-pugilist friend, Mike Donnelly.
Oh, I ask you, Miss Brooks, did you ever see a kid like that, always bawling?
Your wife out shopping again, Mr. Donnelly?
Yeah. Thursday night she's got a bingo game. Oh, excuse me a minute. Huh?
Okay.
Yeah, that's better. Now we can go on talking.
Well, you don't mind giving us your signature so we can compare it with the one on Mr. Jeffrey's receipt.
Oh, why should I mind?
Fine.
Here you are.
Oh, thanks.
Hey, just what did that guy tell you about me anyway?
Well, he said you ordered the flowers for Miss Wayne the day she was murdered.
Oh, he did, huh? Go on, what else?
And, that you and he had a little fight in the courthouse during the trial.
A little fight? I nearly killed him. And I'll tell you why. Because it might interest you, Miss Brooks.
Yes.
Of course, it makes me look like a dope, but here it is just the same. I knew he was getting flowers and presents from somebody. So I used to stroll around downstairs to see who it was.
I see.
All I saw was Jeffries delivering flowers. The owner of the flower shop himself, mind you, not one of the boys. Then it dawned on me.
It's also beginning to dawn on me.
Yeah. He was making time with Lillian, too. She admitted it. That's why we had the fight the afternoon she was killed.
So there was room in Lillian's big, generous heart for our Mr. Jeffries as well.
Yeah. Among others.
You know, Mr. Donnelly, I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't given me a lot more than your signature.
Didn't I tell you not to come back?
Look, Mr. Peterson, the man who killed Miss Wayne signed a receipt for some flowers. And you didn't learn how to write till you came here.
That's true.
Well, don't you see there's enough doubt now to get you another hearing? It's bound to come out that Ralph Lochner is your son. So how about working with me instead of against me?
If I could only believe, after all these years, I could be together with my son again. Used to know he don't have to be ashamed of me. I'll do anything, Mr. Valentine, anything.
Good. Now tell me, Mr. Peterson, just what did happen that day?
It's true what all those people said. The chambermaid, the elevator boy, the others. I was in Miss Wayne's apartment to fix the Venetian blinds. She called downstairs in the morning.
Go on.
I rang the bell. When she didn't answer, I used the pass key. And there she was on the floor, dead. Didn't know what to do. I picked up the lamp, put it back on the table, and just stood there looking at her.
And that's how your fingerprints got on the lamp. Now tell me, did Jeffries, the florist, make a delivery while you were there?
No, nobody. When I made myself understand what happened to the lady, I ran downstairs to my room. He was sitting there when the police came. Poor Ralph, he was such a young boy then. He didn't understand what it meant when they took me away.
You got a fine son, Peterson.
Well, tell me, if they let me go, could I be with my Ralph again?
Well, your son will be a lawyer soon. He'll think of something.
I leave everything to you, Mr. Valentine.
I have just one more stop to make when I get back to town, Mr. Peterson. And I'll feel a whole lot better when that's out of the way. Come on, quick, Brooksy. Close that door. We don't want the cop on the beat to spot the light back here.
Oh, we'll just tell him we're a couple of flower lovers. think of Donnelly's story about Jeffries being on Lillian Wayne's bandwagon, too?
More about that, Angel. Right now, I want to get a picture of that receipt. If I can get Riley working on it without Jeffries getting suspicious...
George, look. The desk.
Hey, a very clumsy job.
Oh.
I would have jimmied open the drawer with much more finesse. It's only a formality, but let's see. Yeah. Just about everything else on the Wayne trial, but no receipt. Oh, I outsmarted myself, Brooksy, and missed the boat.
Well, one sure thing, George. Jeffries wouldn't break into his own desk.
Why not, if he wanted to make it appear that someone else stole that all-important piece of paper?
If it meant so much to somebody, he probably destroyed it by now.
Yeah, Hey. You know, Angel, maybe I didn't miss the boat after all. Maybe it just looked that way. It wasn't going out, it was coming in.
Well, funny, things don't look any rosier to me, darling.
Well, that's because it's late. You're tired. You need some sleep.
Oh, now, George, wait a minute.
Now, be careful when you get to the end of the alley. Be sure nobody sees you. Then grab a cab, and I'll be in touch with you later.
Yeah, but what about you?
I'll be going back to the office in a few minutes. I'm sure I'm going to have a visitor. Now, scram. Hello, operator. I want you to call the police and report a burglary. Jeffrey's Florist Shop, 937 Grant Boulevard. Who, me? Oh, just put down a public-spirited citizen. Huh? Well, if it isn't Nature Boy. I was just about to give you up.
You were in my shop tonight, weren't you?
Oh, why don't you give up, Jeffries? You don't stand the chance of a deep-freeze salesman in Siberia. You've just been lucky for 10 years.
Where's that receipt, Valentine?
What makes you so sure I've got it?
You're the only one who knew where it was. Let's have it.
That's my lease on life.
You think I'm joking, don't you?
On the contrary. But I know you won't let that 38 in your hand go off until you find out what happened to that.
Don't be too sure about that. I haven't any time to waste on you.
You're a many-sided character, my friend. It was a real shock when I found out that you were another one of the boys in Lillian Wayne's male harem.
You're a liar.
Liar? Now you're adding slander to perjury.
Get up. Now put your hands up. If you have that receipt on you, I'm going to find it.
Doesn't it ever make you sick to your stomach having to live with yourself?
Shut up.
Didn't you ever think of Peterson in the prison laundry of the jute mill while you were flouncing around up to your hips in flowers?
It's got to be here somewhere.
You're trapped,
Get back.
Jeffries. You're trapped. Peterson couldn't sign anything. He didn't know how to read or write.
What was that? What did you say?
I knew I'd get a rise out of you.
I'll kill you.
Better drop it, Jeffries, if you want to use this arm again.
All right. Well, what are you going to do?
I was just wondering how to make you stay put while I make a couple of phone calls.
You can't.
I think Harry Peterson would like it done this way.
No.
Yeah? Oh, your timing is perfect, Angel. The visitor? Oh, he's here, but he's out. Never mind. Sure, come on over. Join the party. Sure, this calls for a party, Brooksy. Less than 5 minutes ago, I found out who really killed the fair Lillian.
Valentine, I know it's probably just an oversight, but I've never been advised the Homicide Bureau has been moved over here to your office.
Well, I thought we could clean this thing up faster over here, Lieutenant.
I never killed that woman. And I'm not saying another word until you let me talk to my lawyer.
You're going to need 2 lawyers, Jeffries.
I hate to interrupt this delightful discussion, but Mike Donnelly's in the outer office, fussing and fuming. George, it seems when you called him, you woke up his baby.
Sorry, but he has the answers to a lot of questions that'll have to be asked.
What right do you have to keep me here? What's the charge? There isn't any. That's why you won't let me get to my lawyer.
Oh, so I have no charge to hold you on, huh? Well, forgetting about suspicion of murder, there's a little matter of perjury. Then there's illegal entry, forcing your way into a respectable citizen's place of business.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Assault and battery on this defenseless citizen. No charge, huh? Why, you... Hennessy! Take this monkey downtown.
Yes, sir. You won't get a thing out of me, no matter what you do.
And watch him, Hennessy. Now, Valentine, there's still a few questions I have to ask you.
Oh, just a minute, Lieutenant. I think someone just came in the outer office.
It's probably the Lockness, Brooksy.
Valentine, what'd you find out? I just saw them take Jeffries away.
We got here as soon as we could. Just what has happened?
This is Lieutenant Riley, gentlemen.
Oh, how do you do?
Hello.
We were just getting to that, Mr. Lockney.
Hey, what about me, Valentine?
Okay, Donnelly, come on in.
The wife's at a midnight movie. I had to get a neighbor to stay with the kid.
Please, Valentine, what'd you find out about Jeffries?
The name of the murderer.
What?
Jeffries didn't have the receipt, and I didn't take it from his shop.
Well, how does that tell you who the murderer was?
Oh, the simple process of elimination, Lieutenant.
I don't follow you, George.
I told only 2 people where that receipt was. You, Ralph, and you, Mr. Lochner.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
Yes, what are you driving at, Valentine?
Paying blackmail to Jeffries all these years, even adopting Harry Peterson's son, can't change one fact, can it, Mr. Lochner? You killed Lillian Wayne. Hey, come on, Brooksy, come on. Get your head up off the lieutenant's desk.
I wasn't sleeping.
Oh, no. You were just trying to see if you could look through your eyelids.
Well, come on, kids. I'm going to have me a gallon of coffee. It's been a long night.
Did you get a statement from Lochner and Jeffrey?
Yeah, it's all sewed up. Victim of circumstance. You keep reading that corny phrase, but you only appreciate it when you run up against a Harry Peters.
Oh, come now, Lieutenant. It wasn't just the hand of fate. It got a couple of assists.
Yeah. Jeffries delivers some flowers to his girlfriend. The rat hangs around downstairs to see who his rival is. It turns out to be the wealthy Mr. Lochner. So, Jeffries helps put Peterson away, and then blackmails Lochner plenty for keeping quiet.
You know, I was wondering, Lieutenant.
What's that?
Did it really ease Lochner's conscience adopting Peterson's kid?
The longer I'm in this game, the less I know about people.
I was wondering about something, too.
Albert?
I was wondering if poor Donnelly had much trouble getting his baby to sleep.
Oh, you're punch-drunk, Angel. Let's get that coffee.
Some folks claim that one motor oil is just like another until a mechanic tells them they need a new set of piston rings. But folks who use RPM motor oil find piston ring troubles are few and far between. This premium quality motor oil is compounded to keep a cooling lubricant on upper cylinder walls at all times. Whether your car is standing cold for hours at a time or running hot, RPM clings to vertical engine parts left bare and exposed to wear by ordinary oils. And because RPM is always on the job, your chances of engine trouble caused by rust are reduced to about 0. That's mighty important when you remember that hidden rust causes as much as 80% of engine wear in the average car. No wonder RPM motor oil is the choice of Western motorists 2-to-1 over any other motor oil. For trouble-free operation and longer car life, get RPM tomorrow at independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations where they say and mean, we'll take better care of your car. Next week, when you tune our way for another adventure of George Valentine, you'll hear...
Hello?
Brooksy.
Oh, George, I've been worried about you. Where are you?
Well,
Careful what you say, buddy.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Brooksy, I just want to tell you not to worry if I'm away for a couple of days on this job. I know I can leave everything to you.
George, something's wrong. I'm going to call Lieutenant Riley.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's enough, Valentine. Hang up that phone. If you know what's good for you.
Yeah, I know, all right. Good night, Brooksy. I'll be seeing you. I hope.
Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West. Let George Do It stars Robert Bailey as George with Frances Robinson as Claire. Wally Mayer appears as Lieutenant Riley. Tonight's story was written by David Victor and Herbert Little, Jr. and directed by Don Clark. Also heard in the cast were Harry Lewis as Ralph, Herbert Butterfield as Lochner, Louis Van Ruten as Pearson, Eddie Marr as Donnelly, and Robert Jellison as Jeffries. The music is composed and conducted by Eddie Dunstepper. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, I have to admit, I did guess the killer again. I gotta stop doing that. Either that or get my own radio detective show. The one thing I will say about George is he shouldn't have woken up the former boxer. Brooksy said he's mad. Well, he's got something vital, has got some vital questions he's got to answer. But George didn't ask him a blessed thing. Let the guy sleep. Let the baby sleep. The only reason he was there was so that we could have our conclusion where we round up all the suspects and reveal who the murderer is. And the baby, I guess, just didn't think that was a good enough reason to interrupt the night's sleep. All right, well, I have an email from Kathy who said that she was emailing me to let me know that she'd recommend Bulldog Drummond, Mr. Keen, Tracer of Lost Person, and Rocky Jordan for the shows that I'm still thinking about. I've been listening to them for about 2 years in addition to a lot of shows you already have on your list, but I would also like to mention another mystery podcast I've really enjoyed. It is called I Was a Communist for the FBI. I'm not sure whether this show will pass your standards, but I really enjoyed this one also. Thank you for doing a great job of making these most enjoyable old radio shows available to us. The website, greatdetectives.net, is amazing, and I hope to read more later. Well, thanks so much, Kathy. You're the second person recently to recommend Rocky Jordan. So next time I'm looking into a longer series, there's some shorter ones that maybe one shorter one I'll take a look at first. I'll remember to do Rocky Jordan. I appreciate that, as well as the others. In regards to I Was a Communist for the FBI, that one I think was a great show. It just really falls outside of genre. Spy shows can be tough, because the main thing I look for is a sense of mystery where something is really being investigated. I Was a Communist for the FBI. The thing is, it's more of an adventure spy show, but it's one I'm definitely considering. One I have on there that is kind of a spy show. A couple of them, Man Called X and Dangerous Assignment. Both of those really have some strong detective elements in it. I would love, though, to find some type of show I could do that would include I Was a Communist for the FBI. Very well done program. Amanda writes in that she said he's a huge fan of the genre and the podcast. And says, I'm one of those who can't stand to listen to shows out of order, so I'm very glad to find a podcast that is doing this. I just checked your big list to see if Casey Crime Photographer was on it, and I was pleased to see that it was. Casey Crime Photographer is one of my favorite shows, along with The Adventures of Ellery Queen, mainly because it's very different from the other shows that are out there. Somewhat like Jeff Regan, Casey is a working stiff. But the aspect of the show that I like best is the fact that Casey doesn't have to wait to be hired by anybody before he can start his investigation. So I'm very glad you decided to add the show to the list. I can't wait to hear what facts you'll dig up to share with us. Well, thanks, Amanda. And Lizzie asked a great question. She says, I've been listening to the Dragnet podcast and just got to one of the episodes where you talk about this podcast going live. We have a lot more of these wonderful shows and your great commentary to listen to. Thank you so much for doing what you do. Ever thought of writing your own shows to produce? That would be keen. Well, thanks so much for the recommendation, Lizzie. That's something I would love to do. And I did, I did a little bit of acting when we adapted a short story collection that I was one of the writers for. Name of the collection, and it's still in iTunes, Light at the Edge of Darkness. But it's always a challenge to get these type of shows together and the actors. It's intriguing to do. I know my brother, several years back, actually wrote his own production and had people all over the world star in it. But literally, it's because it was based on an internet forum. But it's always a challenge, and it tends to be one of those things where just all the practicalities get in the way. But believe me, I would love to do it if I could find a way to make it make sense. Well, for those of you who have the app or who have our extra site, premium site, your bonus episode is available. We're actually going to do a double feature with Basil Rathbone in two very interesting non-detective roles. We have him in a Screen Guild Theater presentation in the title role in Goodbye, Mr. Chips, and then an appearance on the Bob Hope Show. So, two episodes with Basil Rathbone for an hour of good entertainment as a bonus. And for those of you with the app, I'm marking this episode with an asterisk in the first part of the show notes. So you'll see it in the description field. And from now on, anytime we're having an extra, it will have that asterisk in the show notes. We continue our discussion of writers for the detective shows with Anthony Boucher and Dennis Green. Boucher was actually a very famous and very influential in the mystery writing community, but not so much for his books. He wrote several different mysteries. His Fergus O'Brien character didn't join Ellery Queen or Father Brown, or Sherlock Holmes, certainly, in that pantheon of great detectives. But he was well known for his criticism. He won 3 Edgar Awards for his coverage of crime fiction. He was considered probably the preeminent expert of his day. He wrote for several radio shows. In addition to Sherlock Holmes, he also worked on Casebook of Gregory Hood and also Ellery Queen. He was the first president of Mystery Writers of America, and he didn't do a whole lot of writing. He did some story consulting towards the end of his life for the Kraft Suspense Theater, and he did The Walls Have Eyes, and one of his novels, Macabre, was turned into a movie. He was also known by actually multiple names. No, there wasn't any sort of criminal thing, just different pen names. He was born William Anthony Parker White, and he was also known as Theo Durant. So that's Anthony Boucher. The other writer of the show, Dennis Green, is a lot more obscure. Dennis Green did a lot of episodes of Lux Radio Theater. No information really on him beyond that. Beyond Lux, and some involvement in the casebook of Gregory Hood with Boucher. So, limited information on Green, but that's our writing staff, so glad to introduce him. All right, well, we're going to get into today's show in just a moment, but before we do get started, I do want to remind you about Netflix. Whether it's Raymond Massey or Basil Rathbone or Jeremy Brett or Robert Downey Jr., Netflix allows you to enjoy the best of Sherlock Holmes and all of your favorite movies from years gone by, as well as new releases, for a reasonable price. You don't have to hold on to it. If you watch a film, You finish with it, you send it back. So you don't have clutter in your house, and you save money on the cost of DVDs, which drop in price like a rock. You want to go ahead and go to greatdetectives.net, and you can sign up for a free 2-week trial of Netflix. And try it out, as millions of others have. Try Netflix. All right, well, let's get into today's episode of Sherlock Holmes. It's the Vanishing Elephant here on Sherlock Holmes.
Petri Wine brings you Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce in the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes. The Petri family, the family that took time to bring you good wine, invites you to listen to Dr. Watson tell about an exciting adventure he shared with his old friend, that master detective, Sherlock Holmes. And I've got something to talk about, too. Now that the poultry shortage is over and you can get chicken again, you ought to treat yourself to the best meal in the world. Fried chicken, Southern style, accompanied by a chill glass of Petri, California Sauterne. Me, oh my, is that something. You know, Petri Sauterne is a wonderful mealtime wine. It's a white wine, the color of pale, pale gold. And Petri Sauterne is delicate in flavor, sort of subtle and kind of intriguing. Well, just wait till you taste it. You'll really love it with that fried chicken. Oh, and I'll tell you something else. It's wonderful with fish. If you haven't tried fish or any kind of seafood, together with Petri Sauterne, well, I hate to say this, but you don't know, folks. You just don't know. So how about finding out? Just pick up a bottle of Petri Sauterne on your way home tomorrow. It's a Petri wine, so you know it's good. And now let's see if our old friend Dr. Watson's expecting. He's out on the patio. Dr. Watson?
Sit out here this evening, my boy.
Oh, swell idea, Doctor. It certainly is a beautiful night.
It certainly is. Draw up a chair and make yourself comfortable. That's it. You care for some of my tobacco?
I think I'll stick to a cigarette, thanks. Well, Doctor, all ready for tonight's adventure?
Yes, Mr. Bartell, I'm all ready. And a strange story it was. A very strange story.
How did it begin? Stormy December night in 1900 with the rain pelting against the Baker Street windows? Or perhaps with you and the great Sherlock Holmes rattling along in a cab beside the foggy waterfront chasing some desperate criminal?
You make quite a good storyteller yourself, Mr. Bartell. No. The adventure I'm going to tell you took place many, many thousands of miles afield from our Baker Street headquarters. To be exact, in the Indian city of Parbutipur, about 200 miles north of Calcutta.
It must have been a mighty important case that made you both travel that far.
It certainly was, my boy, yes. It was announced in the summer of 1894, I remember, that Holmes received an urgent summons from the Maharaja of Parbutipur. After 5 weeks at sea, we reached Calcutta, and a few days later found ourselves on the veranda of our hotel in Parbutipur. As we sat there talking to the Maharaja's brother, Rabat Singh, we could hear the faint throb of native drums and the haunting wail of an Indian lute coming from the bazaar.
And so, gentlemen, I thought that before I took you over to my brother's palace, I would tell you something of the problems that beset him.
An excellent idea, Mr. Singh.
Yes, indeed, sir, particularly as you've just told us your brother, the Maharaja, is not in the best of health.
Just so, Dr. Watson. Interviews tire him, and in any case, his command of the English language is not so extensive as mine.
And now, sir, the problem, if you please.
As to the exact problem, Mr. Holmes, I am not completely informed. My dear brother has not seen fit to confide his entire troubles, even to me. In fact, until your arrival yesterday, I did not even know that you had been sent for. But I can tell you that his worries are centered on the safety of the white elephant of Parbutipur.
White elephant?
Well, possibly you are not aware that white elephants actually do exist.
Oh, yes, though I understand that they're extremely rare.
Oh, extremely, Mr.
Am I right in thinking that in the East a white elephant is considered sacred?
Quite right.
Pray continue, sir.
Well, in 1750, the first white elephant was presented to my great-great-grandfather, and with it came a legend. The legend that the Maharaja's rule would be happy, healthy, and successful only as long as the elephant flourished. If the animal were to die, then the reign would come to an end and the Maharaja was doomed to a sudden death.
Mr. Singh, who was responsible for the origin of this legend?
Oh, a good and wise man who traveled from the mountains beyond Nepal. He it was who brought the first elephant to my great-great-grandfather.
And how has the legend worked out in actual practice, sir?
Its prophecies have come frighteningly true, Dr. Watson.
Oh?
The first elephant was killed by his mahout, his own keeper, after my illustrious ancestor had dismissed the man for incompetent. A week later, my great-great-grandfather was himself killed in a native uprising. And so it has gone on, gentlemen, since then.
Amazing, amazing.
When the elephants have died, and they have always died, the Maharaja of Vaputipur has died a violent death soon after. And as each new Maharaja has succeeded to the title, the wise man from the beyond the mountains has appeared, and with him, a new sacred white elephant. He last appeared 4 years ago when my brother inherited the title.
But it can't still be the same man, sir.
Oh, why not, Doctor?
Well, I mean to say, that'd make him a couple of 100 years old.
A trifle less, I fancy, Doctor.
Really, my dear sir, it seems to me your story's the wrong way round. Men don't live to such an age, whereas elephants are noted for their length of life.
That's true, Watson, but apparently not the sacred white ones of Parbatipur. Mr. Singh, in the event that your brother's death, who would become the Maharaja?
I should, Mr. Holmes. Oh, I can see what you are thinking, sir. The next in line to succeed to the title would have an excellent motive for wishing the animal dead.
Well, the logic is inescapable. But the thought had no personal implications, I assure you.
Well, I'm very anxious to see this fabulous animal.
The sacred white elephant is never seen except at the yearly festival that celebrates another anniversary of the Maharaja's rule.
So the animal is only seen once a year, eh?
Yes, Mr. Holmes.
And when is the next anniversary, may I ask?
In 2 weeks' time.
No, our arrival seems to have coincided very nicely with the ceremony.
Yes, Watson, a fact that I'm sure is not coincidental. Well, Mr. Singh, I'm very glad that you told us the legend of the sacred white elephant, and now I suggest that you take us to the palace. I'm most anxious to make the Maharaja's acquaintance.
This is the council chamber, gentlemen. If you will wait here a moment, I will go and see if my brother is well enough to receive you.
Very well, sir.
On my soul, Holmes, I'm not easily impressed, but this palace is absolutely staggering in its magnificence.
Yes, it does rather take one's breath away, doesn't it?
It does.
This floor is of the finest marble, and unless I'm much mistaken, that magnificent rug is a genuine Bokhara. Yes, by Jove, it is.
I could swear that the staircase we mounted a moment ago had railings of solid gold.
It did, old chap.
It did?
This is a country of paradoxes, where opulence beyond the dreams of Midas rubs shoulders with the direst poverty.
And yet, looking at a palace like this, it's not hard to see why India is called the brightest jewel in the diadem of the British Empire. Good Lord, what's that?
That is an elephant trumpeting.
Oh, yes, of course. Do you suppose it's the sacred white one?
Undoubtedly. You will recall the Maharaja's brother told us it's the only one at the palace.
It's an odd sound.
Yes, a very comforting one. The animal seems to be in the best of health.
Who waits in the Maharaja's council
Good gracious
room?
me, you gave me a start. I didn't hear you come in.
And my friend and I are waiting for an audience with His Highness.
No one can hold audience with the Maharaja. Please to leave.
Now, look here, my good fellow.
Watson,
I'm
please.
pleased to leave.
Watson.
What?
We've traveled 12,000 miles to see the Maharaja, sir, at his request. In any case, his brother is with him now arranging an audience.
I am Mada, the Maharaja's physician and chief counselor. And I tell you, you cannot hold audience today.
And I tell you that I haven't the slightest intention of leaving the palace without seeing him.
You defy authority of Mada? Saila! Azur? Saib loke lay jao.
Now, I warn you that if I have any...
Oh, I'm glad you're back, Mr. Singh. This fellow told us that we couldn't see your brother.
And furthermore, he seems to labor under the misapprehension that he can have us thrown bodily out of the palace.
Mother, you do not understand. These are the gentlemen my brother wishes to see. From England he has sent for them.
It was against my counsel they were summoned. No good will come of this.
Follow me, gentlemen. My brother, the Maharaja, will see you now. But please do not stay with him too long. He is far from well.
Holmes. Dr. Watson. I'm so happy you have arrived here safely. It was great imposition to ask you to travel so far.
Oh, not at all, sir. I only hope we can prove of material assistance to you.
Ranji?
Yes, Rabat?
I wish you would permit Dr. Watson to examine you.
Just what I'm about to suggest myself, sir. In fact, I brought my medical bag along just in case.
Mother would not approve. Mother not believe in Occidental medicine.
I do not trust Nada. I do not think he wishes you to get well. Please, Ranji, let the doctor examine you.
Very well. But you not tell not Mother.
And now, what seems to be the trouble, Your Highness?
My eyes, they torture me. Night and day, they torture me.
Yes, I notice they seem very inflamed. Now, let me take a look at them. Yes. Now, open them a little wider, please, sir.
Eyes throb, burn, night and day. Night, day, burn.
The color is distinctly reddened. However, this isn't anything very, very serious, sir. What you're suffering from is a case of what we call conjunctivitis.
What you do relieve pain, doctor?
Oh, some eye drops will give you relief in no time, sir. I have some here in my bag.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Perhaps medicine will help.
Yes, I'm sure it will, sir. Here you are. Now, this small bottle and an eyedropper. This is an eyedropper. Just put a few drops in the corner of each eye, and I'm sure that you'll get some relief in no time at all.
Thank you, Dr. Watson.
You think there is nothing seriously wrong, Doctor? Mother gave it as his opinion that my brother's eyesight was in serious danger.
Pardon my saying so, I think it more likely that my medical knowledge exceeds his. I can assure you there's nothing seriously the matter with your brother's eyes, sir.
I'm happy you say so. Now you will please excuse me while I take medication and rest a little. We discuss my problems later. Quarters already prepared for you in palace. You do not mind, Mr. Holmes?
Not at all, sir. Though in the interim, I should like to employ my time to the full by inspecting your sacred white elephant.
No, that I cannot allow. I must talk to you first.
I think, sir, you will do well to give me permission to see the animal. I already have my suspicions as to your reason for bringing me here, and it will be best if I'm completely informed when we have our discussion.
Very well. Can do no harm. Here. Take ring. Show ring to Sucro. He's keeper of animal. Sucro will let you into elephant house when he see ring.
Thank you, sir. And please rest comfortably. I'm sure that your worries are nearly at an end. Come on, Watson.
They told us this was the elephant house. Why in thunder doesn't the keeper open the door?
I imagine because his mind is preoccupied with music. Knock again, old fellow, will you? Uh-huh. He heard us that time.
Yeah, about time. He must have been knocking here for 5 or 6 minutes.
Salam, sir. Iamad.
Sarahati technico asti.
Tum dekni ne secta.
Secta. Maharaja side. Kumko asti mafikdio.
Potache, sir. Either out.
Say, Holmes, the Maharaja's ring certainly seemed to do the trick. He didn't want to let us in until you showed it to him, did he?
Good and faithful servant, our friend Sucro.
Here, kutai.
Here.
Ati, pagir.
Pagir. Kasamapik.
Nizutai, sir.
What's happened, Holmes?
The white elephant has disappeared, Watson.
Disappeared? That's ridiculous. Elephants don't just disappear.
Kariga, sir.
Maharaja Sad Kibolo. Kali Kibolo.
Potache, sir. Potache.
Where's he going?
I told him to go to the Maharaja and give him the news. But he was to tell it to no one else.
But, Holmes, this is ridiculous. We heard the animal trumpeting here less than half an hour ago. How can an elephant be spirited away in that amount of time?
That's what we have to find out, my dear fellow. I've often heard of the Indian rope trick. Now we have a first-hand opportunity of solving a new mystery, the problem of the disappearing elephant.
Holmes, this is farcical. We spent half an hour searching this elephant house. After all, an elephant isn't exactly insignificant. I doubt if you're going to find it under those boards in the corner over there.
True, Watson, but nonetheless, there are interesting clues to be observed.
Clues? What clues?
Come over here, old chap.
Bloodstains. Great Scott, you're not suggesting that's elephant's blood?
It's hard to say, though I would venture the opinion that it would require the blood of several human corpses to produce an equivalent amount of blood. In any case, you will notice that the stains are dried and old.
Hello? That must be the elephant keeper back from the palace.
Dr. Watson. It's Mara, Maharaja's physician.
Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, at once you must come back to the palace.
What's wrong, sir?
It is the Maharaja. Death has come to him.
Dead? Great heavens.
Exactly what happened?
Sukro, keeper of the elephant, came to the Maharaja. He said he had a most important message to deliver.
He had. I told him to deliver it. Then what happened?
A few moments later, I heard cries. I went to the Maharaja's room and found him in delirium. He was saying about the elephant having disappeared. His brother and I tried to give comfort to him, but we could do nothing. His breathing became more and more labored. Finally, it stopped altogether.
So the doom of Parbodipur is fulfilled once again. The elephant is gone and the Maharaja's reign is ended. Come on. We must go to the palace.
Yes, I must examine the body at once.
You're certain it was a natural death, Mr. Mara?
Positive, Mr.
No
Holmes.
symptoms of poisoning, for example?
Mr. Holmes, I have read some of your sensational stories in which obscure deaths are attributed to a subtle oriental poison unknown to Western science. I can assure you that if the Maharaja has been poisoned, it has been caused by no poison known to me.
When did he last eat?
Over 8 hours ago.
Oh, possibly died of shock, Holmes. Shock and hysteria. When he knew that the elephant had vanished.
Yes, it's possible, but it's murder just the same.
Murder? Why do you say that, Mr. Holmes?
Because whoever caused the elephant to disappear did it with a deliberate intention of ending the Maharaja's reign. A diabolical plot, and one that I intend to overcome before this day is out.
Dr. Watson's story will continue in just a second, so all I'm going to say is, if you like a swell red wine with your dinner, well, then you should know about Petri California Burgundy. Petri Burgundy is a rich, hearty red wine that's just wonderful with hamburger and beef stew and pot roast and chops and just about any meat or meat dish you can think of. And, of course, if you can get hold of a steak or a prime rib, well, then you've just got to serve that with Petri Burgundy. Petri Burgundy is a swell mealtime wine. The best friend a good meal ever had. No kidding. And now back to tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure, the case of the vanishing elephant. Tell me, Doctor, did you examine the Maharaja's body?
Yes, of course I did, Mr. Bartell. Holmes was convinced that the Maharaja had been murdered, but I could find no trace of foul play. After my examination, I joined Holmes in our quarters, and I gave him my opinion.
Found out anything?
Looks like natural death to me, Holmes.
No traces of poison?
None that I could see. Of course, it's hard to be certain without an autopsy.
Did you suggest one?
Yes, but the new Maharaja won't hear of it. It's against their religion, apparently.
Yes, I was afraid of that. Meantime, I've been conducting a cross-examination of some of the palace servants.
Oh? What do you find out?
Principally that all of them heard the elephant trumpeting this morning.
Did any of them suggest how the animal might have been smuggled out to the palace grounds?
They insisted that such a feat would be impossible without their knowledge.
Well, what's our next move, Holmes?
To interrogate the one person who I'm sure can give us the true story of the elephant's disappearance, its keeper. Remember, we haven't seen him since he took the message to the palace. I suggest we return to the elephant house and have a persuasive talk with him.
This must be the house. It's the only one that's near the elephant pen. Ramshackle-looking place, isn't it?
Extremely. Sukro! Sukro!
Don't tell me that he's vanished, too. This is beginning to get on my nerves. Oh, no.
Sukro! I think under the circumstances, we'll take the liberty of entering. Sukro!
Look, Holmes. Look on the floor.
We're too late.
Good Lord. What a horrible sight. His throat's been cut.
Obviously another murder. He knew the secret of the vanishing elephant. Let's have a look around. Sucro was quite a musician. Look at this weird assortment of instruments. Native lute.
We heard him playing that today as we approached the elephant house.
What's this?
Looks like a sort of giant megaphone.
A musical instrument of some kind. Observe the mouthpiece here. Let's see what kind of noise it makes.
Great Scott, the instrument sounds exactly like an elephant trumpeting.
Of course. Numbs, Carl, why didn't I think of this before? Come on, Watson, back to the palace as fast as your legs can carry you. The mystery is solved.
You say you have solved the problem of the missing elephant, Mr.
Yes,
Holmes?
sir. And also the cause of your brother's death and Sucro's murder.
Indeed. That is very important news. Won't you both sit down, please?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Please proceed, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you. First, the elephant did not vanish today. The beast must have died a natural death months ago. All that happened today was that I discovered its absence.
Are you suggesting that my brother knew the beast was dead?
I am, sir. But he was afraid to publish the news. He knew that his rule would fall into a state of chaos if the fact were known. You yourself, sir, have told us how strong is the native belief in this legend.
Oh, how did he dispose of the elephant?
Unobtrusively over a period of time. The bloodstains in the elephant house would indicate that the animal had been cut up into disposable fragments, which could be removed by the faithful Sucro without attracting suspicion. All this time, though, the elephant horn was blown at suitable intervals to indicate that the sacred animal was still alive.
But if the Maharaja knew the beast was dead, why did he die of shock when he received the news?
I think the answer to that question, Dr. Watson, would be that my brother died of shame when he knew that his imposture had been discovered.
Little far-fetched, sir, if you don't mind my saying so. No, I'm certain the reason your brother brought me to your country was to reveal that imposture to me. He knew the day was coming soon when he must show the elephant to his people. The festival would have been held in 2 weeks' time, I think you told us, sir. I imagine that he wanted me to devise a method of smuggling a new white elephant into the palace grounds before that time.
Tell me, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, why did my brother die today?
Because he was murdered. Just as Sucro was murdered later.
Murdered? How?
Oh, very ingeniously. By poison, but not, as you might expect, by any subtle Eastern poison. No, one of the most recent of Western poisons was used. A poison unknown to Oriental science. Delirium, followed by a strangulated breathing, is highly typical of the newly discovered poison hyoscyamine.
He hadn't eaten for 8 hours.
True, Watson, but you see, this hyoscyamine was administered through an eyedropper.
Good heavens, an eyedropper.
What? The poison penetrates with unusual ease through the membranes of the eyes, if you will recall.
Yes, you're right, by Joe, it does. Must have been that physician fellow, Mardo, whatever his name is.
No, my dear chap. This has been a case of confusions. Let's do a little clear thinking now, shall we? You see, we were deceived by the apparent sequence of events. We discovered the elephant missing and thought that fact had caused the Maharaja's death.
Whereas his murder was quite a separate matter. The poison must have been placed in the eye drops while we were in the elephant house.
Precisely, dear chap. And when the murderer saw how the problem of the missing elephant confused us, he killed its unfortunate keeper to prevent us from learning the truth. Yes, you're strangely silent, Mr. Singh.
Am I, Mr. Holmes? I am fascinated by your flow of unassailable logic. Of course, you realize that I am now the Maharaja, the King of Kings, an absolute ruler with all power, including that of the police. Do you care to denounce the murderer to me?
Oh, come, sir. I think it's time the buttons came off our foils. I'm well aware that you studied medicine at the University of Edinburgh. You have the motive, the opportunity, and the knowledge to kill your brother. The murder of Sucro was probably performed by an underling.
Great Scott, what a shocking...
You are a clever man, Mr. Holmes. A very clever man.
Clever enough to realize that an absolute ruler, a ruler with all powers, including that of the police, is not apt to denounce himself.
Again, your logic is unassailable. Goodbye, gentlemen. I trust your voyage home will be a pleasant one.
I warn you, sir, that I shall make a full report of my findings of this case to the British Commissioner for this state.
Why should he prove more effectual than the great Sherlock Holmes? Goodbye, gentlemen, and bon voyage.
Filthy murderer. Makes my blood boil to think that he can't be brought to justice.
He can, and he will be. The civilized laws of the Occident cannot be enforced here, then we must fight him with his own weapons.
What do you mean, Holmes?
That we have a farewell talk with Mr. Madder, the dead Maharaja's physician, friend, and counselor.
But this is a terrible story you have told me, Mr. Holmes. My beloved ruler murdered by his own brother, and yet he cannot be made to account for his crimes.
He can be, sir, if you will help Mr. Holmes.
Of course I will. What can I do?
Try and obtain the eye drops before they're destroyed, will you? Have them analyzed by a Western scientist and forward the reports to me in London. I'll take the necessary action.
I will try to do that, Mr. Holmes. But if I fail, there is one other way I can avenge my master's death. In a few weeks, the new Maharaja will be enthroned.
I understand you, sir. The wise man from beyond the mountains of Nepal will bring a new white elephant. Perhaps an elephant that will not live very long.
You understand me perfectly, Mr. Holmes. I can promise you that the elephant will die in a very short time. And with it, the new Maharaja, my master, shall be avenged.
That was quite a story, Doctor. Quite a story. And tell me, what did happen to the next white elephant of Parvatipur?
By an extraordinary coincidence, it died the day after the new Maharaja's enthronement. And that scoundrel was himself killed in an uprising that occurred just a few days later.
You know something? I think I could be very happy as an Indian Maharaja.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Beautiful palace, beautiful women, beautiful jewels. And every year on my birthday, the natives would give me my weight in gold. You know, I could learn to like that. That is, if I tried.
Yes, and every week you'd speak to your subjects over the radio and tell them all about Petri wine.
Oh, now, wait a minute, Doctor. I don't always talk about Petri wine.
That's right. You don't always talk about Petri wine. You've got to sleep sometime.
All right, go on. Kid me about it. But Petri wine is worth talking about. After all, what other wine has the tradition behind it that Petri wine has? Don't forget, the Petri family has been making Petri wine for generations. Since way back before there were electric lights and telephones and things like that. They've been making Petri wine since the 1800s and handing down from father to son, every bit of valuable knowledge and experience. There's no doubt about it. The Petri family really knows how to turn luscious grapes into wonderful wine. That's why you can't go wrong with a Petri wine. Petri took time to bring you good wine. Well, Doctor, how's about giving us a clue to next week's story?
Next week, Mr. Bartell, I'm going to tell you an adventure in which I'm afraid I didn't exactly cover myself with glory, shall we say. But I think you'll find the story an exciting one, my boy, because it's composed of equal parts of romance, of international intrigue, and of sudden death.
Tonight's Sherlock Holmes adventure is written by Dennis Green and Anthony Boucher and is based on an incident in the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle story, The Engineer's Thumb. Mr. Rathbone appears through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and Mr. Bruce through the courtesy of Universal Pictures, where they are now starring in the Sherlock Holmes series. The Petri Wine Company of San Francisco, California, invites you to tune in again next week, same time, same station. This is Harry Bartell saying goodnight for the Petri family. Sherlock Holmes comes to you from our Hollywood studios. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. So that's how how Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson conspired to assassinate the Maharaja. I'm so glad this didn't end up being considered canonical by anyone. Though in this case, it almost does seem justified given the plot against the reigning Maharaja. All right, well, I do have one programming announcement. I did find a show I'm not going to do, and that's Mark Saber of the Homicide Squad. The episodes would be very hard to get in order to play them, and I got to listen to one, and I just concluded it wouldn't be worth the trouble. It was going so badly in the episodes that I heard that I lost the connection and didn't find out what happened the rest of the mystery, and it didn't bother me at all. So, yeah, so that one's a no. I think I'll have a yes for you tomorrow, but we'll get to that then. I've got a couple quick comments to get to on Podcast Alley. This comment says, I just discovered the podcast and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Keep up the good work, Adam. And another one from Podcast Alley. I love this podcast. It is the best. Well, we'll begin with a personal note, which is not strictly related to the show, but I just thought I'd let you know we've signed a contract to release a book. So publishing contract, not a big advance, but it'll be coming out, so pretty excited about that. And I'll let you know more details when that is released. We have more coming up after the show, including a new show we're going to do, as well as the Johnny Madero movie. Yes, there was one, and I'll tell you all about it when we get back. Actually, there were 3 of them, technically, but we'll get into that when we get back. Before we do get into today's show, I do want to remind you, wherever you're planning on going this summer, whether it's to a family reunion or traveling to Europe or just going on business, remember to check out JohnnyDollarAir.com to get great deals on travel. JohnnyDollarAir.com is Priceline, which allows you to name your price on hotels, rental cars, cruises, and even more, as well as being able to search published specials. Remember, JohnnyDollarAir.com. Now let's get into today's episode. The SS Malay Trader ship. We'll go ahead and listen, and then we'll come back.
Time now for Edmund O'Brien as yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Edmund O'Brien in another of the adventures of the man with an action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator, Johnny Dollar.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Intercontinental Marine Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of my expenditures during my assignment aboard the SS Malay Trader, the ship with no port of call. Expense account, item 1, $80. Transportation from Hartford to Savannah, Georgia, where, after pausing only to grow a beard and deck myself out in seaman's garb, I proceeded to the local hiring hall of the Seamen's Union.
The Cape Lorenza, C2, standing for the Panamanian line, bound for Rio de Janeiro, leaving tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. The call is for 1 baker, 1 galley boy, 1 carpenter, and 2 ABs. Cape Lorenza,
Yes, okay. All right, we'll put the call right through right away. Well, what is it?
The name is Dollar. I'm signing on the Malay Trader. Ordinary seaman, special permit.
Special, huh? Well, let me see now. Oh, yeah, here it is. Insurance dick, huh? Well, I'm glad to cooperate, Dollar.
Thanks. Where do I find the ship?
Pier 8. The directions will all be here on your assignment slip. What's the beef? A hot cargo?
Oh, maybe.
When I find out, you can read about it in the papers.
Okay, so you're not talking. That's your business. Here's your slip. Now, the best way to get there is to follow the railroad tracks past the warehouses right across the street.
My new home, when I found her, looked neither pretentious, comfortable, or even seaworthy. She was a rusty old Liberty ship that probably had a war record, but hadn't had a coat of paint in months. Her winches, fore and aft, were busy feeding heavy rattan-covered bales into her gaping holes. Her decks were alive with longshoremen, and set against all that activity, a bulky gent wearing an officer's cap lolled on a stool near the head of the gangway, idling time with fingernails and a penknife.
Yeah? What's your business?
I'm signing on. Where do I find the chief officer?
You found him. I'm Holstaff. Let me see your slip. Yeah. Okay, darling. You're on the 4-8 watch, quarters to 3A. Just past the galley, then aft starboard side. Go up here, dear. You can sign later.
Right. So far, the spy story method seemed to be working. I was aboard the ship as a seaman, and a few seconds later, I was shaking hands with the man who shared my quarters, Al Rhoda, on a salary for 4 years as Intercontinental's marine investigator.
Johnny.
Hi, Al.
Hey, it's been a long time. How are you?
I'm fine. It's good to be working a case with you again. Hey, is it all right to talk in here?
Yeah, but let's keep it down. I've been on this tub since it left Singapore, and nobody's on to me yet. But play it cagey on deck. How much did they tell you in jolly old Hartford?
Well, they gave me just the basic situation that Intercontinental insured a bunch of crude rubber from British Malays before the devaluation of the British pound sterling. Half that, I understand, burned in a warehouse in Singapore.
I bet, to the tune of over 100,000 insurance bucks. I flew out there. Signs of arson, but no proof. I followed the other half of the crop here to Savannah.
Hey, this company that owns it, Malay Traders, kind of an outfit, is it?
They aren't angels. Been up against British customs a few times. Never nailed. They own their ships, and the branch here, headed by a Mr. Pila, imports basic commodities, like the rubber and minerals.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the point is that since this crude was insured before the British pound dropped, they can bring in more loot destroying it than they can selling it.
Yeah, I guess that's so. And I take it the policy covers until they do sell, huh?
That's it. I thought we were getting rid of it here. They packed it away in their warehouse, but then 3 days ago they started loading it aboard again. That's why you were sent down.
What's the matter, Al? Don't you think the company trusts you?
I guess they figure I need help. And they're right. Where do you think we're bound, Johnny?
Well, my paper's at Corpus Christi.
The scuttlebutt is that Corpus is just a stop. That we clear there for Mexico, Veracruz, where arson investigation isn't what it could be. After that operation in Singapore, what else would they do?
Hold it.
Dollar, you in there?
Yeah?
Holstaff. Ship's articles are in the company office, corner of the warehouse. Go ashore and sign them.
Yeah, okay, right away. Sir.
Nice try, sailor. Oh, and if you'll take a word of fatherly advice.
Well, practically anything you say. Go ahead.
That girl in the office, the Malayan half-caste, she's the boss's daughter. Ah, my.
Ah, my. Is that for appreciation, or is it her name?
Both. But save your dreams. The chief, our friend Halstaff, is as possessive as he's big. And you know something? I don't blame him.
I didn't blame Holstaff either after I saw Amai. You could tell she had enough Occidental know-how to be proud of what the Oriental did to her looks. Amai, indeed.
Good afternoon.
Hello. I'm here to sign the articles.
I'm the Malay trader.
Oh, what, please, is your name?
Dollar, Johnny Dollar.
Dollar. Are you a very thrifty man, Mr. Dollar?
Well, hardly. My name is usually the only one I have to my name.
Your signature right here. Oh, I wish I were sailing with you.
What? What did you say?
That I wish I were sailing with you. I have begged with my father. But he will not let me go with him.
Oh. Your father's going with us, huh? I didn't know that.
I will beg some more. Once again, please, your name right here. Oh. You have nice hands, Mr. Dollar.
Nice hand? Now, why'd you say that?
I see so many hands here on my desk. So I notice them. Some are big and lumpy. Some are short. Some are dirty. In the storage department, some are clean from dishwashing, but all wrinkly.
I see. Well, I'd better get back to the ship. Thanks.
Thank you. We hope that conditions during your voyage will meet with your approval, and that you will accept employment with Malay traders again.
And with those memorized words ringing in my ear, I thanked the luscious Amai again and proceeded shipward to take up my duties as a very ordinary seaman. I hoped that her interest in my landlubber hands really stemmed from her unusual hobby and not from suspicion. And I wondered why Mr. Peeler, her father, and the local head of the suspect company had decided to go with us. Had his doctor ordered a sea voyage for his health? Or did he want to enjoy in person the odor of burning rubber? The next afternoon, the cargo had all been brought aboard. The ship was made ready for sea. And I had sustained, along with multiple cuts and bruises, the ire of the bosun because I didn't know the difference between a preventer and a topping lift. But by the time night fell and the Malay trader was plunging down the Atlantic coast, I knew one thing. The sailor's life is not for me. How'd you make out, Al?
Well, nothing new. Scuttlebutt is still Vera Cruz, but there's something screwy about it, Johnny. You develop a nose after you've snooped as many ships as I have. There's something wrong aboard.
What? Besides my seamanship? The old man?
Yeah, a lot of little things. The course we're on for Florida Straits, the readings on the ballast gauges. Of course, the displacement ratio changes with different oceans and water temperatures.
Look, Al, that's all Greek to me. Ballast gauges, displacement ratio. Just what are these things that are bothering you?
Well, I don't know. Just vague things that... Look, come out on the foredeck with me, will you?
Yeah, sure.
Probably just this overactive nose of mine, but... I want to get a look in one of these holes. Now, there's a hand standing lookout in the bow, and if you'll go up there and keep his attention, I'll slip into the escape hatch of number 2. All I'll need is about 10 minutes. I'll meet you in the cabin.
I made small talk with the lookout for 10 minutes, then started back towards the cabin. Suddenly, I heard a scuffle behind me. Hey, Al, is that you? Then I heard someone running, and I started after the disappearing figure. But I didn't get very far. I stumbled over Al Roda's body by the open hatch. And there was a stab wound in the back of his neck, just at the top of the spine. It was small enough to have been left there by a penknife. I didn't report to the chief mate or the captain. I went over both their heads, and I pounded on the door of the owner, Mr. Peeler. Mr. Peeler?
Yes. One moment. What is this? What does this mean?
There's been a killing down on deck.
What do you say? Killing?
My watchmate, Al Roda.
But this I will not believe. The captain or Mr. Halstaff, where are they? Why do you come to me?
Because I think a request from you is in order. I think Sparks ought to radio the Coast Guard. The sooner the better.
But the killing on my ship. To believe this from you. No, I do not. What is that?
Man overboard, Mr. Peeler. A murder has just been turned into an accident.
In just a moment, we return to the second act of Johnny Dollar. But first, Kitty Callan will join Vaughn Monroe's caravan along most of these same CBS stations this Saturday night. And on the CBS Gene Autry Show, the King of the Cowboys will bring you Ramona, When the Bloom is on the Sage, and many another Western favorites. The Vaughn Monroe Caravan and the Gene Autry Show are heard every Saturday night. Hear them tomorrow night in an hour of Top Pops and Sagebrush Symphonies. Now, with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Mr. Horstaff. Mr. Horstaff, will you please come here, Mr. Horstaff?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Horstaff, there has been trouble?
Yes, sir. One of the crew fell overboard, sir.
Then talk with this young man. He speaks of killing.
Killing? No, it's you, Dollar. What's this guff about killing?
Al Rhoda. He was stabbed in the back of the neck with a small knife.
This man is either drunk or crazy, Mr. Peeler.
Yes, most certainly.
I just stepped out on deck to check the running lights before I turned in. Saw the man leaning over the rail. He was sick. The ship rolled and he went over.
Have it your way. I guess that was a life jacket I stumbled over, huh? What are you doing about the man overboard?
I'll thank you to remember your place on this ship.
I do, but I also remember Al Rhoda.
Doing what's prescribed by maritime law, I'm changing my course to circle and search the area.
Yeah, how about the Coast Guard?
I'll be notified in due time. Now either go to your quarters or get forward with the rest of the crew and look for this guy you're so worried about. Where are you going?
The radio room. Even I know the Coast Guard gets first bid.
You listen to me, Dollar. I'll have you up before a commission board and you'll never ship again if you don't obey my orders. Hey, the boilers. You better get to your lifeboat station, Mr. Peeler.
Every time an explosion lifted the Malay trader up off the water, it lifted my stomach up with it. My heart must have been pounding, too, because I felt it high in my throat. And feeling that big seagoing box of steel plates and bolts shuddering under my feet, painted sweat on my forehead, and big sticky flashes of real fear on my soul. This would be getting dead the hard way. But finally, the quivering of the ship came to a stop, calming down my own vibrations as it faded. Then the tub started to lift, giving me a new reason for keeping my mind off of taking a cut at Halstaff with the closest fire axe. The crew got panicky as a bunch of kids in a burning school. And while they fumbled with the lifeboats, I took a last running look at number 2 hold. There were still bloodstains on the deck where I'd found Rhoda. And next to them, besides the open hatch, I found something that Halstaff hadn't realized he'd lost or hadn't had time to look for. His penknife, pearl shell handle, with an anchor embossed in silver. I pulled back the tarp further, moved a few of the sectional hatch covers, and got a look into the hold. There was enough light to see the cargo, and enough smoke curled out to tell me the explosion had not been in the boiler. Yeah, I had a fine case, except it was going down under my feet, and I'd end up with everything but proof. It was shortly after dawn when the Malay trader finally settled by the bow and went into a final plunge. Everybody in the lifeboat turned and watched her go. The water quieted over her, and the only traces left were the hatch covers I'd pulled loose.
This is the place, mister.
Yeah, this is it.
That'll be $2.80.
Yeah, here you are. Keep it.
Oh, well, thanks.
Who are you?
Page 1 and 3, line 22. Ship's articles, you remember? $1.
Oh, yes. But this newspaper, it says you're missing from shipwreck.
Yeah. A guy'd have to be stupid or dead to be lost on a sinking like that. Everything was too convenient. Plenty of time to get the boats launched. Only 4 miles from shore.
The paper stated.
Yeah, they reported me missing because I didn't take time to report myself among the living. You see, I couldn't wait to get back to Savannah, get back to you and the king-size scheme cooked up in this office. Now, I'm not promising anything, but a quick signed statement might help you. I'll write it and you sign it.
You talk about schemes. What statement is this?
Oh, come on, stop it. Look, use the old sex pitch. Try to sell me that it'll be worth my while, but don't try to sell me innocent.
But, darling, you think I know about something. Please, tell me what it is.
Look, if you're bluffing, you can quit. I know that explosion on the ship was staged. Now, the next step is to try to collect the insurance on the rubber that was lost. And that's the step I'm supposed to start. Here. Here's my ID.
I'm very sorry. I not understand. You are police?
Yeah, in a way. In a way, I'm the police. And the real ones aren't far behind me.
And you do not lie to me.
Look, I wouldn't have any reason to.
It's true. I knew nothing about it. I, too, do not lie.
Well, why'd you think your father was taking this trip?
I did not question. Neil told me he had business in Corpus Christi.
Well, then Holstaff lied to you. The newspapers will tell you why your father took the trip. Here, look at this. Importer and fleet owner narrowly escapes death in explosion aboard his own ship. Now, who'd think of scuttling with the aged owner taking the risk himself, huh?
Darling, it's very difficult when in a few minutes 2 men you love become suddenly criminals. I am only daughter. I not question my father. If he did this thing, he did it with reason. Now, what would you have me to do?
Well, first stop looking at me as if I started it all. I'm sorry. Honestly, I am. It was clear to me now that she wasn't lying. And to hide my embarrassment, I read through the newspaper accounts of the sinking again while she recovered herself. There were air photographs of the huge oil slick the sinking ship had left on the surface, the only reminder now that the hatch covers had drifted away. The lack of wreckage was mentioned in the stories, and I remembered Al Rhoda worrying about ballast and displacement. I looked up the number of a local chemist, and I made a phone call.
Hello?
Listen, Doc, this may sound like a silly question, but it could be important. Does crude rubber float?
Crude rubber? Do you mean perhaps latex?
Yeah, whatever you call it. The way it comes into the country wrapped in rattan, will it float?
Oh, specific gravity. Wait, I think. It decreases as the temperature rises. You see, normally specific gravity is a little less than that of water. Yeah.
It would float.
Yeah, it floats.
In the hold of a sunken ship, with a hatch partly open, it would force its way out and come to the surface?
Yeah, it floats.
Yeah, but it didn't. Thanks. Am I?
Yes.
How many warehouses does Malay traders have here in Savannah?
Only that two.
Here on the waterfront, huh? Was anything moved out of them last night? After the ship left?
No, nothing was moved. Darling, what does this mean?
Am I want you to wait here in the office for your father. When he comes, I want you to tell him that I'll be waiting for him in one of the warehouses and that I know the truth. The Malay trader warehouses were closed for the day, but my foot in a window opened them. Both were stacked high with imported goods, and I picked my way through everything from lychee nuts to ivory back scratchers. In the second one, hidden behind a wall of carton Ceylon tea, I found what I was looking for. They were unlabeled wood crates. I opened one, and the resilient mass inside was crude rubber, still on dry land and still insured.
All right, Dollar, hold it.
Hold what, Holstaff? There's nothing left to hold.
What do you mean by that?
That for me, everything is finished, wound up. Time for the law. Unless you can make another switch with that rubber before they get here.
See that rubber in the crate?
Yeah.
Been here for over a year.
Ah, come on. Let's not waste time. You and Pila and I know there wasn't any rubber in number 2 hold. You saved it to sell after you got paid off for losing it. But I'll let the experts prove it.
What expert?
Oh, they got all kinds. You know, one group is going to nail you for murder.
That's very funny.
That's very funny. So's a penknife, a funny murder weapon. But I found one on the Malay trader on the deck near number 2 hold.
So you've got a penknife, huh?
Yeah. With a pearl handle and a silver anchor on it. You know, I guess at least 100 seamen would testify under oath that it's yours. I know I will. I only wish I could be 15 people when you hit the courtroom. The jury, the prosecuting attorney, the star witness, and the sentencing judge.
Well, you won't see me in a courtroom.
How do they execute down here, huh? Gallows, electric chair, gas chamber, what? Come on, tell me. Or do I have to look it up?
They'll have to have more than they've got.
They got plenty. All they have to do is match up the weapon with the wound.
Look, Dollar, I don't scare easy. I could make a confession, and it still wouldn't hold without a body.
What do you mean without a body?
They gotta have a body. Anyone knows that.
You're getting ahead of yourself, Holstaff. Did I say they didn't have a body? Huh? You think those Coast Guard helicopter and blimp crews are blind?
Keep going, Dollar.
You think a guy who's been a Marine investigator as long as Al Rhoda had went around without figuring how to do his job even after he was dead?
What are you talking about?
What do you think he wore around his middle? A money belt or a life belt that would keep him afloat? You're stupid, Holstaff.
Give me the knife, Dollar.
It's not only a knife. It's Exhibit A. And the prosecution will want it.
Give me the knife, Dollar. I'll kill you if I have to.
You don't want to shoot me, Holstaff. How do you know I've got the knife with me? Huh? How do you know I haven't left it someplace with a note to the police?
Stand still. Now get your hands off to the side. Now hold them there. All right, now keep your hands still. Now just turn around. Don't move.
It wasn't time for Queensberry rules. It was close to me, and I used my feet. The first one landed on his shin. And the same movement, I fell forward on my hands and kicked out with both hands. Two sea boots into the solar plexus would have stopped an ordinary man. And after I gave him a couple more, the big chief mate turned into just that, an ordinary man. I turned Holstaff over to the police along with the murder weapon and the results of my bluff. They took it from there to a confession. Mr. Pila was cleared of responsibility for Al Rhoda's murder, but is now being held on conspiracy to defraud. I hope since the policy on the remaining cargo of rubber can now be canceled, Intercontinental is minimizing the monetary loss in Singapore. To you, the loss is a little more than $100,000 and an operative. I have lost a friend. Expense account item 2, $63. Getting my foot on a bar and my chin off my chest while waiting for a train to take me out of Savannah. Item 3, $80. Transportation Savannah to hospital. Item 4, $10. public stenographer who took the dictation on this expense account. Item 5, entertainment, same public stenographer who spent the evening proving that socially she didn't take dictation. Also that she was no good at making me forget what I want so badly to forget. The face of Al Roda. Expense account total? Skip it. This one is on me. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Paul Dudley and Gil Dowd with music by Leith Stevens. Edmund O'Brien can currently be seen starring in Harry M. Hopkins' United Artists production, D.O.A. Featured in our cast were Lillian Byeth, Barton Yarborough, William Conrad, Elliott Reed, and Robert Griffin. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. Join us again next week when Edmund O'Brien returns in another adventure of
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
The Case of the Oblivious Angels. A true story of manhunt in Tennessee and Georgia is to be dramatized on Gangbusters this Saturday night. The story will have narration by the chief of police who directed the successful search for the bandits. So for a half hour of real adventure, as experienced by our forces combating crime, listen in this Saturday on most of these same CBS network stations to Gangbusters' story, The Case of the Oblivious Angels. This is Roy Rowan speaking. This is CBS, where yours truly, Johnny Dollar, meets adventure every Friday night. The Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, longtime fans of the Dragnet podcast will recognize Barton Yarborough appearing in today's episode of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar. And this is a reminder of how much work radio actors could do. Because he made this guest appearance on Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar. He was also, at the same time, regularly playing Ben Marrero on NBC. And he was also appearing as Clifford in One Man's Family. So a lot of these actors were able to work in a lot of different shows just because of the flexibility of radio acting. And I think we continue to see Edmund O'Brien develop into the role of Johnny Dollar. A very different spin. I thought the end part was well done in terms of expressing some poignance. Really gave us a picture of a world-weary shamus, which is definitely different than the Charles Russell performance. So this was good. Nice episode in terms of the undercover right from the start. And one thing you do say is that Russell could be semi-hostile almost to the insurance companies. O'Brien's Dollar could be almost hostile to the insurance companies he represented. Never quite got that during the Bob Bailey shows. All right, well, I told you that I would tell you about the Johnny Madero movie. Now, it's not called Johnny Madero. And there were several old-time radio movies that were easily recognizable. There was Mr. District Attorney. There were movies from The Whistler and Inner Sanctum and Big Town. But this one was a little bit more subtle. There was a series of 3 movies made called Danger Zone, Roaring City, and Pier 23. They were basically the way you could look at them is these three movies, each of them had two stories in them, two totally independent stories. So it was like they were doing two TV episodes. And the company that made it, their thought was, we're going to go ahead and we'll put them in theaters as a 1-hour movie, and then we'll dice them up, sell them for television. And so this is where these movies come from. It stars a detective, it's about a detective, Dennis O'Brien, in San Francisco, and it stars Hugh Beaumont, who would play Ward Cleaver on Leave It to Beaver. Now, a lot of fans have identified this and said this movie was based on Pat Novak. However, it was actually based on Johnny Madero. You can tell by the title of the third movie, Pier 23. Pier 23 was from Johnny Madero. And the author, the one who wrote the radio plays from which these were adapted, was Herb Margolis. Herb Margolis wrote for Johnny Madero. He did not write for Pat Novak. So this is Pat Novak, Johnny Madero, the movie. It sounds like it'd be interesting. I recognize one of the plots directly as the plot of The Fatal Auction. However, if all of these come from Johnny Madero, it could be a nice opportunity to kind of find out what's in some of those lost radio episodes in terms of plot. That said, the movies don't have particularly high ratings on IMDb, so let the listener be warned. But it's out there. All right, and finally, a series I'm definitely going to do, Pursuit. It was a fantastic show. It's probably one of the very best shows you've never heard. It's about Inspector Peter Black of Scotland Yard, and it stars Ted DeCorsica and then Ben Wright. And there's a fantastic rhythm to the show. It's really a shame there weren't more episodes that have been preserved, but I liked it. Very good mysteries, very good pacing, great rhythm. In some ways, it almost did remind me of Dragnet in some of its stylistic moves. So it's a good show from CBS, so I'm definitely going to put that on the list of ones we're going to do in the future. But that'll wrap it up for now. Got any comments? Email me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Please cast your vote at Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And you can follow the show on Twitter at Radio Detectives. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.